Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend in the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Yeah, the world's a puzzle, brunch rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Got a good one in store for you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a party tonight. I can't believe we made this happen. We've got JJ and Landon in the house. I'll give you a chance. JJ, why don't you start and tell everyone where they can find you? Welcome, gentlemen.
Tim, great to see you, sir. Landon, as always, great to see you, sir. Excellent to convene on these matters, as always. Matters of high weirdness and conspiracy culture. And, Landon being a fellow West Virginian, I'm, contractually obligated to work with him on that basis alone. But no, we actually been doing some weird West Virginia stuff recently there, myself and Landon there on the Daily Dissident. And Tim, you and I have had some real barn burners on some ancient American stuff as well. And I caught your all's ancient American conversation, you and Landon. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD and not the vice president.
Cool, man. Happy to have you. Happy to do this again. Landon, tell them your deal.
Awesome. This is Landon. I host the Daily Dissident on Spotify or wherever else you guys get podcasts. Doing some cool things over there, just not heavy at the moment. I got some dates lined up for a few guests, but the booking end is quite hectic, as you guys can both agree upon. It's hard to get everyone there at one time, you got life going on, whatever, but hopefully I'll have an episode.
Well, they can go check out the stuff that you have up.
Yeah, I have plenty of stuff up so far. But if you guys are looking for some more stuff, you can head over to the Daily Dissident where we get podcasts. Other than that, I'm ready to rock tonight. It's going to be a good show, so excited for it.
Yeah,
JJ, good to see you as well, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is wild, man. We got 3 personalities under one roof. I can't believe we haven't done this yet, but I'm happy we're here.
Right.
I think we're going to get into, from what I understand, we're getting into like weird West Virginia and beyond, just America's occult landscape in general. What makes this place so mystical? Because I do think it's more magical than we realize. I also think it can get pretty dark. One of my favorite stories that I've come across is the story of the founding of St. Augustine. which they say is America's oldest town. Um, well, it was founded by French settlers who were evading, they were on the run, evading child sacrificing giants. And so they made it to St. Augustine at night. They left at night and sort of were running from these people. So they went to Florida and they got as far as they could get, I guess, and they settled on that east coast shoreline of Florida. But it's the backstory. It's that weird occult scaffolding behind it that's just like I love these kind of stories, you know. That's the thing that maybe we can get into today. Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
St.
some
Augustine's a
dark.
beautiful town. I've visited there. It's certainly got, you can tell the age of it. I'm often intrigued by the stories that get put on top of these older places. And I don't want to go tartarding on you folks, but because I think that's much, and no disrespect for folks who subscribe to Tartaria, theories, but my viewpoint is that seems to indicate they're just mashed together older tales of Lemuria and Atlantis and stuff like that. And really, what all we're trying to do is this, but they're doing it. I don't discredit them for their efforts. There's no incorporation of mounds in those theories. That's one of my issues. But what I think they're trying to do in that community, and what we're trying to do here, and what we're saying is, there's an ancient history to America that we don't understand. We try to piece together these details, but we're told places like St. Augustine, Florida is the oldest city in America. But I question some of the validity of those statements because where do those folks come from? How did, what I mean? What got them settled here? And why are we just laying over these false narratives of history over the top of it? What are we really hiding in that regard?
Yeah, this is
Right.
a neo approach to the Tartarian matter where it's like we take like bits and pieces of that work, but we don't come at it
Yeah.
from their traditional ways. Like this is, I mean, you got to, like you said, JJ, at one point you told me this, you've got to incorporate the mounds into this. If you don't, what are we doing here, right?
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. Yes, sir. And it's not even just the actual existence of the mounds, but the knowledge base in which those folks had that constructed those mounds. We
Right.
don't have an
And
explanation
there's
for where that education came from, right?
right, and that how in depth they are with the solar system and aligning of that way, and also you have the my favorite's the serpent mound. I know I've chatted about it several times, but is it really a serpent? Right, that's to be told. Some people believe it's the fetus. I mean, what is it? The sperm, egg, and the
Sperm and the egg, yes, sir.
yeah.
Okay,
So
are we
I'm
going
a
to talk
firm
about
believer in
Serpent
that.
Mound all this early? I was hoping to avoid this. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
yep. If you're gonna talk mounds, that's where my head goes immediately.
I
So
mean, it's the largest effigy mound
that's
in the world.
that's the mecca for me.
It's
That's
the
the
mecca for
mecca.
mounds, and really, because
Hmm.
again, that serpent mound, again, that's what I mean. But it's a great example of what I mean by we don't understand the folks. Like, even if they say like, oh, the natives built it, or folks like Cyrus Thomas from the Smithsonian who had, I think, more of a more reasonable theory that the ancestors of the Cherokee are or the mound builders. I do
Right.
think there's a lot to that even, and a lot of evidence to indicate that. But the thing that's lost in all these things is whoever built the Serpent Mound knew how to read, like you're saying, the astronomical understanding of the universe. They
Yes.
embedded in that a calendar in which to survive in this world, by the seasons, because that mound, the what is it, 400 meter or so, 1,300 feet or so,
Yeah.
mound, shaped like they claim a snake, but again, yeah, it's a sperm and an egg if you ask me. And because it depicts the inception of life, the mound does, the
Yep.
sperm and the egg, and then once you're alive, then you can sustain life by, it tells you the seasons, the equinoxes, the moon cycles, et cetera, et cetera.
So
And we
we
don't.
agree on that. I just want to jump in here and say, like, I do think it's a snake and an egg personally, but I can agree with JJ. Like, there's this astrological thing tied into it, and I just want to add that there were other serpent mounds as well. I just found some documentation on one in Kentucky. It's near the what's it called, the Big Sandy River up there, where they talked about
Yeah.
this in
That's near
Hellier,
Huntington.
guys. They were finding glyphs up there on the cliff faces above that river. There's a
Yep.
serpent mound there. I've seen pictures of serpent mounds in Indiana. There's one in Seattle in a park. There's one up in Ontario. So this is a thing that we've just not been told about. And it gets real interesting once you realize that these are aligned with the stars. I mean, I totally agree with that. It's almost as if there was, and this is what I believe actually, there was a class of astronomer, alchemist, priest, engineers over here building stuff and aligning it with their concepts or conceptual ideas of the zodiac. it gets real deep,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, and if you
Um,
look at the astrotheological understanding of the mound builders based upon what we can extrapolate from their their mound stuff and some of the tales passed down through the natives, it's the same shit. It's the same theological understanding as the pharaohs and the pyramids. They're trying to launch their soul to a comet essentially to take you to Sirius.
All right, the outer realm. One thing to add there is, I want to, this is a question I commonly come across. I keep asking in my head is, are they the same people? Are we talking the same race of people
Yeah.
or the same, are they even people? Like, are these like extra, I don't want to say ET, but maybe they're fallen angels, that's very likely. So I don't know. That's kind of what I come across when
well,
I'm
I
coming from
think
there.
that the mound builders, at least some of them, were giants, and I think too, like there were probably groups of different people coming over here throughout the centuries and the millennia. They may have been the same bloodline though, so there may have
No,
been,
you're right. You're spot on, sir. It is a bloodline thing. I totally agree with that.
yeah.
Now, in West Virginia, JJ, I don't know if you're familiar with down there in Wyoming County. Now, that is allegedly to be a part of the Delphi, right, or the Delphi out of Ireland. It dates back several thousand
Well, that's where we
years. Like,
find those Celtic inscriptions,
yeah.
right?
Now that's where shit gets weird, and that's where people don't like to go. See, not your what's that bozo gets on Joe Rogan all the time with his stupid glasses on? Graham Hancock,
Which bozo?
Grand
Which one?
Handemacock. That's what
Yeah.
I call him.
I don't
Yeah,
care much for his. I
if
don't
you're
care much for his stuff.
yeah, if you're seeing it on Netflix, bro, it's probably rigged. I mean, that should be like a given. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
that shouldn't even be a debate.
like
Like
many
that's
folks,
propaganda.
Graham Hancock makes a lot of good points, but he's an ancient alien cargo cultist, so he's trying to get
Yep.
us to subscribe to his ideal system. Ultimately speaking,
Yeah, I mean, if he was a realist, he would say, "Hey, believe this or not. It's up to you." You know what I mean? Like you don't. I'm not trying to push anything on you, man. Here's the evidence that I found. If you
yeah,
like it, great. If not, kick rocks. That's
I'm.
kind of how I feel.
I don't think you're
Well,
wrong in that
he's
perspective, sir, at all.
he's
No.
done some good. He's done some good. He's shown a
I
lot
mean,
of
I'm
light
not
on
throwing it
this
all
issue.
out.
Like
I'm not throwing it all out.
there's a lot of people in the space right now questioning the official narrative that we know as bunk, who were brought into this space by Grant Hancock. And I mean,
Right.
he was part of my journey too. I've got his book
For
right here
sure.
on the
No. I
shelf.
mean, he makes some good points. You're making some good points too, sir. But the
So
one thing I concern myself with Graham Hancock is why don't we talk about folks like Augustus LaPlongeon? Why is his name ever brought up? And if it wasn't for folks like Augustus LaPlongeon, we would never even have a Graham Hancock.
yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that take. I mean, I appreciate all the takes from you guys. Like that's why I wanted to get both of you on here for one episode because I do appreciate the way you guys look at things. Like even if I disagree a little bit with Landon there, it's no big deal. We'll, I I
Right.
see what he's
I'm not
saying,
saying I'm not
and
saying that he's a terrible like he's like ultimately like all wrong. Like not
yeah,
everything he
I
says
know.
is wrong, especially like his Gobekli Tepe stuff. Like I'm with that, but what I'm not with is if we're talking these ancient civilizations, how come like this I guess you would say the white narrative of this. I mean, some people have called it very neo-Nazi type. Even if you subscribe that the Celts were here long before Columbus was, you're automatically a Nazi. But
Yep.
somehow there
You're
was
denigrating
Columbus.
brown folks. I'm out of here, sir. If you're going to start denigrating brown
Yeah,
folks.
Columbus and his boys, I guess they were over here writing in Celtic hieroglyphs. So yeah.
Well, that's part of the propaganda is to make you call yourself racist for trying to get to the bottom of the actual history here. And there
Yep.
were white folks here. There was Asian folks here in this nation. There was brown folks of varying varieties.
Yeah. You had them cross the damn land bridge over. I mean, Native Americans are the
Well,
closest thing to an Asian there is because of their. Have you done the research into their the way they literally do not they can absolutely like destroy alcohol in their system. That's why they don't get drunk.
well, yeah, but there's evidence of Chinese anchors off the west coast. Old
Right, crossing.
stone anchors. There's evidence of the Chinese come up the Mississippi, no different than the Celts
I have
Right.
and the Welsh.
I have Turkish in me. I can confirm that I can drink a lot of alcohol
There you go.
Yeah.
and hold my own.
So the
Which I
question
don't
is,
do. I don't drink anymore,
Well,
but back when
but
I
the,
did, I could put them
there's evidence
down.
of Hittites and Phoenicians. That Hittites, that's ancient Turkey, right? So they're here. That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying. There's brown folks of varying varieties. There's red folks of varying varieties. The Celts, the
right.
Cherokee, the ancient Cherokee. That is. Why does the Cherokee look so much like the Scots Irish?
And they're very tall too. If you haven't, a lot of Cherokees are pretty tall
That's what I'm
people. You know
saying.
what I mean?
They have an interesting dynamic. Their culture is very much like the Scots Irish. They call themselves clans. They build homes like the Scots Irish did. They organize their societies like the Scots Irish. They look like the Scots Irish. The Scots Irish when they came here, they intermarried
Mhm.
with the Cherokee. So that's what I'm saying. We don't
You go
understand
back
history.
far
We're sold
enough.
propaganda.
I don't think it's about white and black the further you go back. Now, this is my opinion here. Okay. My opinion is that the first people were probably Middle Eastern. They probably were mild or dark skinned, but maybe mild dark skin. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's just my opinion. But
Right.
I think that the further you go back, there's probably a more neutral skin tone there. And depending on where people moved, like if you moved down south, at some point the skin became darker. If you moved up north, at some point the skin became lighter. But my point here is I don't want to like we're cut from the same cloth here.
Right.
There's one
Exactly.
race.
It's all about propaganda
It's
when you're talking about race, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's part of the
That's
propaganda.
yeah,
yeah,
that's entering the narrative in itself,
Yeah.
right? That's cancel culture at its finest.
Right.
yeah. But I mean, going back to like astrology and stuff like that, and like you know what, honestly, too, like the further you go back, you start to see depictions of things that weren't human. Like to answer Landon's question from earlier, where you said, were they even human? Well, you know, I've heard it said that Sumer and Egypt were the first. That's where history began, was Sumer and Egypt. Well, now we know that there's these Ubade people out there that predate the Sumerians, and
Right.
they look like they had lizard faces.
Yep. And a lot of
I
them are
mean,
like,
what are we talking about here? And like,
if you look in the Anunnaki, right? If you
yeah,
go with that
exactly.
narrative, I mean, I don't know if I fully believe it, but I mean, there where there's smoke, there's usually fire. So I'm not
Well,
throwing
we know there's
the
some
whole
biological differences from the giants that built the Adena mounds that were buried to the base. They had double rows of teeth. They were on average 7 foot, 7.5 feet tall. So we know there's some biological differences there. I do believe that there's these bloodlines of these mound building cultures that date back to that. And I think Cincinnatus, the man who was venerated by the secret society that started America, the Society of Cincinnati, I think they do believe that was an ancestor in their bloodline families, and that Cincinnatus was a giant because they built a
right.
giant statue of him on top of a mound site in Cincinnati.
Mm,
And wouldn't you say, JJ, like this is my opinion on that. I don't think the Roman Empire ever quit. Like I just think it expanded.
it's the
It
Vatican.
it put on a new mask. You know what I mean?
For
Like
sure.
It's the Vatican. They rebranded, they condensed a little bit, and
Well,
which if you were going to, cover up a lot of shit, like that's how you do it. You fake your own death, man. You just, this is how we're
yeah,
going to
who's the
write
richest
history here.
nation in the world?
Well, I would say the Vatican, but
100% is the Vatican.
mm,
They're the one. They're oftentimes behind the one. They're the ones helping perpetrate things such as the One China policy in the UN. Again, they help rule the world,
ask
mhm.
Grant, ask Graham Hancock about the Vatican. We'll see it. We'll see his response on that.
right? No, I'm not
Let's
saying everything's Jesuits, but I mean, obviously, the Vatican play a major role in
They
running the
they
world.
play a
Obviously,
lot.
they're the wealthiest, most powerful nation in the world.
yeah,
They
for
play a
sure.
lot.
Yeah, there's and I do think that they've got a Smithsonian sized vault down there, if not bigger, full of this ancient history stuff.
Yeah,
There's
go into
stuff down
that.
there that would rewrite human history altogether, and like I want to take it back to North America though, and talk about the weirdness of this place some and like I'm thinking about this article I read recently. I've been collecting all these old articles. I've been trying to track down because I'm on the trail of these ancient cities in America. I know they were here, and I found that there was an old Hopi medicine man who was talking about how they believed that there were three major cities on the Pacific coast. I'm thinking, from what I can gather, I think Seattle was one. Uh, San Francisco was one, and LA was one. And that same Hopi medicine man said they had legends of the lizard people who lived in LA back in the day. This is not, they didn't call it LA, obviously. This is the
Right.
city LA built itself on top of. and there's all these tunnels down there, and there's a
Did they have
guy.
taco trucks in the ancient LA? There's some good tacos. I love taco. Every time I go to LA, I get a taco truck. I mean, that's for damn sure.
Are they
Where
kin to the Getty family, Tim, by chance?
were they Ubade people? Were they reptile people? I don't know that, but I think whatever they were there, and they built a city where LA stands today, and those tunnels down there still exist. Some of those tunnels, the tunnel system, come from these ancient people that the Hopi talk about. And I'll do something on this one day, and go into it more. But I've got an article about this guy in the 30s who went down there and found these tunnels right where the Hopi said they were. So, this is just bringing it back to the weirdness of this land, right? Like, again, alchemist, priest, engineers over here building stuff, right? I had a lady hit me up last night. I was talking to this lady from Minnesota, and she heard mine and JJ's one of our episodes, and she said, "Oh, I live in Minnesota. I had no idea about the Kensington Runestone or any of the crazy stuff here." And she told me the name of her town, and she's like, "Have you ever looked into this?" I'm like, "No," but I looked it up on a map real quick, and I saw that it was right below Minneapolis, and it was right on a river, and it was right at the confluence of a river and a lake. So I told her, I'm
Yep,
like, that's indications that there was probably an ancient settlement there,
for sure.
because we know Minneapolis was built on a mound site. Up above Minneapolis, Grand Rapids. I know that was built on a mound site. I have the
Yep.
documents to prove it. They cleared, I don't know, 60 mounds to build downtown Grand Rapids. What about Minnesota, right? Like, or Minneapolis,
It's
JJ?
it's
Oh,
Minnesota.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, big time. Yeah,
Minnesota.
It's Minnesota, bud.
Minnesota.
But
Eh?
like, that's what I'm talking about. Things get weird, and like I've had a lot of people tell me that they live in these type of towns on rivers, and that there's just a feeling in the air that there's like a darkness over the place.
At
Well,
George Floyd.
I agree. It goes in my theory of weird shit happens in and around mounds. And there's an esoteric and exoteric reason why the ancient culture is built on these confluence of rivers, like you're saying, the confluence of a river and a lake there in Minnesota. And then there's these, there's all this lore and legends and theology of these water gods and feeding a sacrifice to this one specific one that exists at the confluence, this water demon that exists at the confluence of waterways. So you have that. And then
Mm.
so you have these ritual spaces there as a result of that. And then you also have the fact that the waterways were their interstate highways.
You know
I
what's
mean,
interesting about the water demon, JJ? If you go back in history and you look at all the water demons across mythologies across the globe, they seem to be androgynous. Just throwing that in there. Like
yep.
from Babylon to Japan, they talked about these like Eanus or Oannes, I should say, type entities that were like androgynous. So it got me thinking when you said that, like, what if that's what we're talking about with LA? Because LA's right there on the water, right? You've got Venice Beach right there. What if there
Not
was
only that,
Oh
some
no,
water
LA's
demon
LA's a mountain
action?
city, sir. LA's definitely a mountain city. I've mapped some of that.
what
Love it.
JJ, what do these three things we're talking about have in common? Well, two things plus a third one that I'm about to mention.
America.
Smiley face killers.
You're right.
Oh,
Ritualistic deaths,
Yep.
waterways, mounds, all in the same ballpark.
Occurring at the
All
sites of ancient human sacrifice, modern
all
day human
young
sacrifice.
males,
Yep.
at that.
The calling. Always has been.
It's not
So
real.
Pittsburgh,
There's
right?
not there's
it
nothing to that.
it begs the
There's nothing.
question of what came first, Bill Clinton or the blue dress, Monica's blue dress, but Philadelphia, PA or Philadelphia, Egypt, right?
Right.
Memphis, Tennessee or Memphis,
Memphis. Yeah, I was gonna say Memphis, Egypt.
Cairo, Cairo,
Cairo.
Illinois.
Cairo, Illinois. There you go. These are ancient mound cities. What which came first? Are we naming these after the old city, or these were already named in an old
Mm,
culture?
I agree.
Right. And notice how they say founded, not opened, or
Well, because
it's
that is
always
the theories.
founded.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So on these theories of Tartaria and the founding
I'm
of
not
things,
going
you're
full
saying
Tartaria, but I
I'm
am
not going.
saying
Yeah,
they do say
I'm not
they
going
do say
full. Yeah,
founded.
you never want to go full Tartarian, sir. The
Never go full retard.
I know that there is something about the language, obviously, and I do think there's something to be said about some of these theories of the Tartaria stuff. So if you have ancient Greek architecture of this old nature they're calling Tartaria, well, let's look at what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the society of Cincinnati venerating these mounds of giants from the ancient Roman Republic. The ancient Greek architecture they're in is what their favorite architecture is. Well, let's just play around with the idea that those buildings were built by the same culture these people are venerating. That's Cincinnati's culture. So
Mm,
there is something. That's what I'm saying. There is something I think to the Tartarian theories. Are just
hmm.
misappropriating some of these ideas.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. I think that we can come at this the way we're coming at this right now. We can start as we go. We can start like we're in a shelf, like we're going through the supermarket, just taking Tartaria stuff off the shelf and just adding it to our
That's a good
basket.
that
You
yeah,
know,
that's a good way to
Yeah,
put it.
because
and
some of that fits in.
if you look at the original settlements in New York City and Philadelphia, this is all ancient Greek architecture. The same ancient Greek architecture we see at the U.S. Capitol building. Benjamin, all the society of Cincinnati designed things in the ancient Greek architecture, down to the Edina Mansion in Chillicothe, Ohio, where we get the name the Edina Mounds.
Chillicothe, of course, being built on a mound site.
Now,
So I think that was a capital for the mound culture, the Edina mound culture. That was their capital city.
what do you think about
Mm.
this theory, guys? So, as we're speaking of all these different things in Tartaria, for example, one thing I will mention that I find very weird is you do any digging into it's a reset of some sort because anytime you do any type of digging into these cities, for example, there's always a fire started by a cow kicking over in a lantern around 1890 to about 1911. It seems to keep a reoccurring around that same time at Chicago at Richmond, Virginia, at
That's a fantastic point,
Baltimore,
sir. Have
at
you gents seen the have you seen the number of state, not the local lodges, the state free Masonic lodges, right? The headquarters of each state. Have you seen the number of those that have burnt down over the years around the same time frame you're talking about?
I have not. I've never picked up on that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, in the basement of the George Washington Masonic Lodge in Alexandria, Virginia, the giant ziggurat looking building they built there in George's honor, he joined Freemasonry, I think at age 18 or 19, maybe, when he lived out in Winchester, Virginia, when he met the Vance boys there. He was the surveyor assigned there for the colony of Virginia from his father or from his brother's father-in-law. His brother, older half brother Lawrence, was married to was it Governor Spotswood, I think, maybe at the time, Alexander Spotswood, maybe. Anyhow, Fairfax, maybe it was Governor Fairfax. Yeah, Lord Fairfax. So that was Lawrence
Nasty Brit.
Washington's father-in-law. So George got himself a job as a result of that, right? He also got himself Lawrence's U.S. British Army colonel position when Lawrence passed as a result of that. So that's how he got, was a 24-year-old British, in charge of the Virginia militia, basically, as a result of his brother's passing. But in the relationships they're
Um,
in, but
so while we're on George Washington, I got to bring something up because I just listened. It was last week. I listened to a show you two gentlemen did on, I think it was the Weird West Virginia show. I think. And I had this really crazy synchronicity, right? Like, so I'm listening to you guys talk, and you talked about how George Washington had some sort of a farming operation going on in Point Pleasant. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I got to tell you about this sink, right? So I heard that, my ears perked up. I'm like, oh, I've never heard this before. This is interesting. Well, somebody left a comment on one of my shows on YouTube saying, "Hey, did you know that George Washington had land and farming stuff in Point Pleasant?" And I was like, "I just found out about this like a couple hours ago." And then I looked at the
right.
comment. I'm like, "Oh,
That's weird.
the comment was left 2 hours ago." That's when I was listening to you guys say it on the show. So it's like this
Right.
dude was leaving a comment about that at the same time that I'm learning it by listening to y'all's episode. That was so crazy.
I don't.
But
I don't think it's crazy, Tim. And I want to clarify that because I think a lot of people just keep brushing things off. Like too many coincidences are too many coincidences most of the time. You know what I mean? Like things don't line up that way for no reason. I think it's a some type of vibration frequency we're on together at certain times. I know it's a little woo woo out there, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think that we experience things purposefully. I just don't believe in the idea of randomness and chance. I don't. I mean, of course, that's somewhat of you know the believing, but I also am not like this crazy numbers guy who's like strictly only dating this Sagittarius or I don't buy into all
yeah,
that stuff, but I do buy into.
Landon doesn't send me text saying, "Well, this is what the gematria says."
Right. Yeah, I'm not into that. So, but I am into, everyone kind of on the same frequency.
I'm
And I
with
think
you.
we could probably tap into more of that. And I think that's what they were doing with the mounds. I think they were tapping into some type of frequency to communicate with other mounds or something. I don't know.
Well, there's
Yeah.
Kind of.
geomancy involved. There's
So,
necromancy. There's geomancy. There's
And
all your mancies.
that's where shit gets wild.
well, that's so, and I agree with you, man. Like, so there was something, I'll say it because I'm not too shy with the woo woo stuff, right? Like, this is the Sixth Sensory podcast. Um, yeah, maybe there's something to that. Like that information that you guys were laying out in that show was pertinent to my research. That's why my ears perked up the first time. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe somebody else told me this at the exact same time on the exact same day. But my point was saying all that is like, uh, let me get this straight, right? Like Washington owned the land that Serpent Mound sits on and land in Point Pleasant.
Yeah. Well,
We
he
got to
dispatched
talk
his
about that.
neighbors. He dispatched his neighbors from Loudon, Virginia, to the land that Serpent Mound sits on, and they kept it in their family until it was preserved in a state trust.
Right. But I
Also, the
thought
richest
that
county in America,
I
Loudoun
thought
County, Virginia.
I thought that Washington had some sort of claim to the land in the first place, and that's why he was able to get his buddy living there. But I might be wrong.
Well, I think he might have had a claim. You might be correct there, sir. I'll have to go back and look. I just don't want to misquote that. So after the war, after he formed the Society of Cincinnati, George continued on his surveying efforts and going through Point Pleasant. He'd already been there earlier in his life when he was the official surveyor for his brother's Ohio company, of which Thomas Worthington, the man who brings us the Adena Mansion, the Adena Mound, and Chillicothe, was a part. His family was part owner in the Ohio company. This was a King James sanctioned effort for land real estate, development from Jamestown forward, and then went through various evolutions. But the Washington family was obviously a big ownership in that family, and George was a surveyor. And after the war, he continued on to the Ohio country, so he surveyed. I I think you're right. I can't quote the
Mm.
exact record that he surveyed and had ownership of Serpent Mound, but he lost 23,000 acres of land in Southwest Ohio after he became president. And he had surveyed this stuff after the war and gone through Point Pleasant, he was setting up farming communities on mound sites,
Yeah.
nonetheless, all the way to Cincinnati. So he surveyed Cincinnati before the society set up shop in 1794.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
And that's your take, right, JJ? You think that this whole thing was a land dispute. It wasn't a revolution. It was a revolution of taking land.
No,
That
it's control
was
of the mounds
right.
because the
That's
Jesuits
But
the
came.
guy
why?
So
But
as soon as the
why?
Jesuits invade Ohio, they start setting up on mounds.
because they're trying to tap into that power, bro. They're
Yeah,
trying to
man.
they're trying to they're trying to summon some demons. That's what they're trying to do.
But think of how many mounds were destroyed, folks in Minnesota. That should be known as the land of 10,000 mounds. Used to be more like 100,000, but it's known as
Mhm.
the land of 10,000 lakes. But think about how many mounds have been destroyed. Some intentionally, some unintentionally, some purposely to get the power from it. Some just over the nature of time in this country. But for example, there used to be hundreds of thousands of mounds in Ohio, just around Chillicothe, stretching out in a bullseye fashion. So Chillicothe would be the center of the bullseye. They the further away you get from Chillicothe, they get a little bit more sparse, but nonetheless, we used to have a vast amount of mounds here. And if it wasn't for George Washington and those surveys in the Society of Cincinnati, we would have no such mounds.
Mm. Yeah, I wanna correct something I said a minute ago too, because I was talking about the woo woo thing, and I'm like, yeah, this is Sixth Century podcast. I also want to say that this is also Operation GCD podcast and Daily Dissident podcast. Just wanted to correct
Well,
that real
I
quick because
appreciate that, sir. On that note, if you want to talk about the nature of time and woo-woo stuff, I'll talk about that all day, sir. That's one of my most It's one of the topics that most fascinates me the most.
well, but
Yeah,
my greater point here
absolutely.
is like it's Landon talks about was bringing up the how many coincidences is a coincidence, that whole thing, like it's beyond coincidence that Washington had land in two of the most mystical places in this country, that being Serpent Mound and Point Pleasant, because everybody
Right.
knows about the Mothman case. When people think of high weirdness, especially in Appalachia, they think about Point Pleasant, and
Yeah,
Right.
it's not a
and
coincidence that
it's the same
Washington's
topic,
involved.
sir. You just mentioned the same topic, and we just don't talk about the back half of that. We talk about the front nine, not the back nine, if you will. And all I'm talking
Hmm.
about golf, probably because golf courses are built on mounds. If you think about it,
I
Donald
was getting
Trump,
ready to say that, bro. I was getting ready to say, are you guys subscribed to the theory that all these mounds, and that's why Trump owns so many mounds? That's what
Donald
somebody
Trump is
said.
the largest private mound owner in the
Yeah.
world. I will debate anyone on that topic. I've tracked it myself. In
What
He
fact,
do you
knows
think?
something
Do you
about.
think
He
there's
knows about.
validity to this, JJ?
absolutely, and I'll give you a couple examples. Mothman, first two sightings on mound sites, the TNT factory and Mason County, West Virginia Country Club, which is built on a mound. So Donald Trump used to have ownership in the Mound Builders Country Club in Newark, Ohio. It's no longer private. It's now a public course. Went through a couple machinations of legal disputes because they wanted to destroy it all together. So that was built as Mound Builders Country Club, built on mounds in Newark, Ohio. Now Newark's an interesting site. Today I've spoken to surveyors, and I'm happy to, if someone wants to debate me on this, because people tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, talk to a surveyor. We cannot do 50 acres straight lines and then build a mound in the straight line on top of that line. They can't even shoot a line of a laser in their technology that far. Yet the folks that built Newark Earthworks did so with 50 acres geometric shapes that are aligned with the stars. And there was a 70-mile highway known as the Hopewell Highway with 6 or 7 foot mounds on both sides, running that entire distance all the way down to Serpent Mound.
Okay, wow, that's crazy.
So this is what I mean by things that have been destroyed. But as far as Point Pleasant goes, that is what started the war of 1776. So we're often described as the Mothman situation as being derivative of some sort of curse from Cornstalk. And now
Right.
that curse from Cornstalk is the war I'm talking about. So that battle took place nearly, I think, approximately 5 months before the shots were fired on Lexington and Concord. So we're talking, November of 1774, I believe. And that's the Battle of Cornstalk there in Point Pleasant. That is the attack on George Washington's farming community he'd already set up. Because, again, this was part of his earlier initiative in the Ohio Company before the war.
Awesome. You mentioned that, JJ. Both of our family members fought there, yours being George Washington, and mine was, it's stumping me. I'll get back to you with
I
that.
wanna-
But
Well,
anyways, it's
you are
weird. We were
correct, sir.
both,
I had a couple forefathers there on Team Washington. So
I
this
want
is
to point out here too, before we move off of Point Pleasant, that there might be a Pazuzu connection
Andrew Lewis. Sorry.
to
I
the
don't know why I was thinking.
Mothman. So it's like, let me see if I can lay this out for you. So the way people depicted the Mothman looking, right? Like a humanoid with these wings, almost like gnarly butterfly wings, right?
well.
Okay, but hold on. Let me just run with it for a second. If you look at the god Pazuzu or the entity Pazuzu from the Babylonians had little images of him. He looks just like the Mothman. And what gets weirder is when you look at the Piazzu bird that's on a cliff face in Alton, Illinois, right off the Mississippi. There's a Babylonian looking entity there with wings and like a dog face kind of a thing and like four
Oh,
limbs.
I
So
don't know that one, sir.
yeah, I'll try to find the pictures so I can make sense of what I'm trying to say here. But like basically in ancient Iran, you had these entities on stone blocks that were like they look kind of like beasts with wings. So there might be some sort of a Piazzu Pazuzu connection here with the whole Mothman thing.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
So we're talking this incarnation of
So
Mothman.
yeah.
This is Lord's Dunmore,
That,
Lord Dunmore's war, right, JJ? We're
yes,
speaking
sir.
about. Yeah, that was Andrew Lewis. So that's weird coincidence too. Nobody's talking about this shit, man. That's what I'm saying. That's too many
That's right.
coincidences. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's
what's
the
the
whole.
chances of me and JJ having same forefathers that fought in the same war, talking about the same thing on this podcast? And Tim, you probably do too. I don't know.
I'll do you one better on that, sir. What's the aspect or what's the odds that a fellow named Brad Minyard I do Chasing Menard series here? He's a descendant of one of George Washington's spies. What's the odds once we start diving into that tale? He found me through discovery of the Society of Cincinnati, and me being one of the few folks talking about it on the interwebs. We've been doing a series about his journeys and his genealogy and whatnot, and we find his forefather, Abner Vance, my forefather, and George Washington in Rowan County, North Carolina in 1781. So what are the odds of any of these things, right? What is the nature
Yeah.
of reality? What is the nature of time? What came first, Bill Clinton or Monica's blue dress?
Guys, take a good look at the screen. because I'm about to, and think about what this looks like because I'm about to show you something else. All right. Sorry, I'm not trying to like go all over the place, but I've got to throw this in. Do you guys see this?
Yeah.
This is Pazuzu.
That's weird.
How close is that?
Pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. So is that intentional? Because I say that because is this an ancient alien cargo cult that wants us to see this in an incarnation of this tale? Because the eyewitness reports do not report this thing looking like this.
Now, I hear you, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. And I want to point out one other thing. Look at this thing's
Look at his cock.
face. Look at
Scroll down. Look at his cock. Hold up. What
Look
is
at the
that?
size of
Is
that
a
dong in that
serpent,
thing. What's
bro?
going on here? Is that a sex cult statue or what?
Oh no,
Nah,
dude,
that's where I get it. I mean,
That's
is this an inside joke that they're putting on us? You know what I mean? Like,
That's what I'm saying, dude.
hold on, guys. Let me tell you. I didn't even know that this had a snake wrapped around its leg.
What is that, Graham Hancock?
Look.
that was the first thing I noticed, Tim. Was like, I mean,
Look at the face on this
Graham
thing.
Snakecock?
The face on this thing looks identical to the face of the Piazzu bird that's carved on the cliff face in Alton, Illinois.
Yeah.
pull
And-
that up.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
pull
gotta
that
see that because I know the area and that's a heavy mound concentration region.
Yes, dude. It's right below St. Louis. He's
Right.
right.
Real quick.
Look at this thing, bro. Now, what they did was it's the same face, right?
Yeah, dude.
So
What the fuck? I've never even seen this before, man. When was this? When was this allegedly?
somebody colored it in.
I
So
assumed that much. Yeah, I assumed that much.
this was carved in here, and I think it had some sort of coloration to it as well, like they were using like old dyes.
Well, I was going
Um,
to say some sort of clay or something like they do in the other stuff, right? What are we talking about as far as the actual original inscription? We know what that looks like.
No, it got defaced, but they had pictures of it. So this is a representation of what was there before it got defaced, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
Well,
But
the horns are very interesting.
yes, but I mean,
Kind of looks Japanese.
this is right down the road from
I was going to
Cahokia.
say it looks very Asian, right?
Yeah,
And I was saying
So-
there's evidence of the Chinese up the Mississippi where this is found.
it's not ancient alien cargo cults. It's Asian alien cargo cults.
Oh, there we go.
All
Oh,
right,
it's
so
fried rice. Oh, fried rice.
now I'm going to show you some of the first pictures that came out of Iran, and I want you to see that entity and how close that entity is to this one. All right.
So somebody just painted that in Illinois.
No, it
Rendition?
was already on the cliff face. The cliff face got defaced.
Whoa, dude.
They had
Is it-
pictures, so they drew it basically.
It says, is Piazza bird a Native American dragon? I'd say look at it. It looks
Yeah,
like
man.
one.
I think it goes back beyond further than the Native Americans.
Where did the
personally.
Chinese come from? You know what I mean? Why is there a Chinese Freemasonry revolution in 1776? Essentially Freemasonry, right? Largely focused through it. And the same as in this country, same as in France, same as in Sweden, same as in Norway. Why are there always these revolutions simultaneously, right? No one recognizes really so much that Chinese one, but it happened at the same time.
Yeah.
They got mounds.
So I'm gonna have to use
I think they call them
Sorry.
Kurgans over on that side of Asia, but they got mounds.
I'm gonna have to find a better picture. But there's basically what I'm trying to show and find right now is that there are entities that look just like this. They've got the wings, they're in the same posture, they've got the sort of beast-like features all over the place in ancient Iran.
So what's your take on that, Tim? What do you I mean? What do you think the
This-
correlation is?
Is this
That
Persian?
this was a Babylonian entity, possibly called Pazuzu, who somehow they knew about over here and they called it Piazzu.
Okay, that's weird.
Or since it was since this is right off of the Ohio and the Mississippi,
Well, Tim,
then that
What do you
I
mean
think
by
that
Ohio, Tim?
those people were coming over here. They were traveling up that river system, and they probably brought their gods and myth and lore and legend and some of it was probably real in the first place too. They brought their gods over.
Absolutely. But what do you mean by Ohio?
What what do you mean by what do
Well,
I mean
because
by
it's
Ohio?
for in Japan it means hello and goodbye, but in Native American culture it means something different. But yet we have the same word across the globe. Why is that?
Tell me, hit me with it.
No one cares to answer that question. I've been asking that question since I moved to Ohio as a youngster. I mean, what is going on here?
Well, I don't know. Why don't you tell me what I said?
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you
But
something
you see what I
else.
mean, though? We recognize we have the same words across varying
Oh
cultures.
yeah, for sure.
We say Ohio River, but like we don't realize, well, that's a very common, word in the Japanese, vernacular every
Hmm.
day.
I think that this was.
I think it's like their aloha, right? I might be mistaken. There is a word in Japan. I think it's their version of aloha is Ohio. But how did aloha start? Is it a variation of Ohio? It sounds a lot like it, right?
Let me get this
Mhm.
straight, Jay. You think the Ohio State Buckeyes are pretty much 1942 Japanese?
I think we are lied to
Is that the
across the
comparison
spectrum
we're
of
making?
time and space, and each time they rehash these new lies and new propaganda every time. Shit gets real funky as you keep stacking lies over on psyops on top of psyops and lies on top of lies over centuries and millennia around the same shit. So why do we have the Ainu people in the 13th century, 12th century northern Japan? They have red hair, they look very European. They have blue eyes, and they're all expert on with expert swordsmen and on horseback assaults, and similar to the Knights Templar. So why do we have both across Northern Europe and Northern Asia? We have the same character features amongst the same class of people, right? So
We're
again, it's
coming
not
over here.
just Ohio and Ohio. We see the character traits, right? The
Yeah.
Ainu people are not Japanese. They've over time have this was the samurai class of the people there in Japan, and again, they have to date they still have red beards and blue eyes. And to my understanding, my red beard and blue eyes come from one place, and that is the island nation of Iberia, Ireland.
See, and I think too that some of this goes back to Noah's sons. This is my opinion, but
Oh, wow.
I've been tracking the movements of Shem, who's one of Noah's sons.
This is
Bas
about to get wild.
Basically, what that ship that they were on, that ark that they were on, which ties into the everybody's flood legend. Every culture has a legend of this. When
Yep.
those guys got off that ship, and I think they were real people, because I can track Shem's movements through history, and I've been doing so. He went down to those three sons of Noah went out and established. They traveled the world and they established cities along the way. I think some of them made it out to Japan. That's where I'm going with that to tie in with JJ's saying. But also Shem went down into Yemen, and there's like 3,000, 2,000 to 3,000 year old cities in Yemen, still there, still people living in them, and they have high-rise buildings. These guys
What?
knew, yes, there's an ancient city in Yemen that has high-rise buildings, and it's got legends of like Queen of Sheba being involved with it, and like Shem. The local legend is that Shem built it and established it. So I'm just throwing that in. Like I'll talk more about the Yemen cities on another episode because I still have some research I want to do on that. But
That's
just
I'm
cool.
so
interested to hear more about that, sir. I've been to Yemen, so I'm familiar
yeah.
with the territories.
I
Well,
thought it was, is it pronounced Yaman or Yemen?
I think it's
Uh,
Oman and then Yemen. Oman's
Here in
next
America,
door.
sir, we like to make up
Oman?
new names for countries, if you will.
Oman. I'm going down there to Oman
But
this week.
Well, it's
check
like
this
Japan.
out.
It was not named Japan. That was our backwards way of Americans saying, "Oh, what are you saying to me, Nippon? We'll just call you
Mm,
Japan," because they called the island of Nippon. They were the Nipponese. They're not
mm.
Japanese.
So yeah, if and I know some people will probably opt out of the Noah story, but
I'm into it,
if
dude.
you still follow that model, this goes back to a handful of people, one family who helped develop and grow communities all across Europe and Eurasia. And you go to places, remote places like Yemen, and the local legend there is, yeah, Shem settled this,
What's
helped us
his other
build the
son's
city.
names?
Ham and Japheth, I
Ham.
think.
Ham. Yeah, Ham's interesting in the Bible too.
And there's legends in Japan that one of those boys was the one who came through and established it in the first place. I don't know
Oh,
if it was
wow.
the whole area of Japan, but there's a spot in Japan where they say that it was one of Noah's sons who first came there, right? And just tying it back in with like these people were coming over here. This is why North America is so weird. Some of these people, I think from Iran, were clearly coming over here because there's remnants of their gods over here carved into the cliff faces. What else were they doing? They were coming over here and they were building walled cities. All throughout the Old Testament, in the Bible, you can go through and read about the way they did things. They built walled cities all over the Middle East. I think they were doing that over here along the Mississippi and the Ohio. And I got one for you because this is potentially one, right? So what do we say, JJ? Right? Like they built their settlements on the confluence of waterways, right? They were coming up the Mississippi, branching off like the Ohio. That's where Point Pleasant is. And back in y'all's neighborhood, right? Charleston, West Virginia, right? I got this old picture of
Major mound
Charleston.
sites there, right? Major mound sites.
The Kawanaw River, the Kawanaw.
Kawanaw, what do you call
Yeah.
that? Kawanaw? Kanawha?
Uh, I'm just butchering every name in the
No, I
book.
was going to
Purpose.
say.
That's
I
Kawanaw,
wanted,
the Kawanaw River.
bro, I knew you guys would have something to say about Charleston. That's why I brought this
Well,
up.
the Capitol building's built on a nice mound site there, sir.
Yeah, it's a shithole, man. Don't go.
Well, it fits our model. It's at the confluence of waterways, and this is an old picture, and it looks like it's got a wall around it, right?
Yeah, that's weird.
Now, is that just uh something to do with the water system, or is that an
It
ancient
could
city
be.
wall?
Right, and that's a good question to ask. And why isn't that wall still there?
See, look at
Because
that. It goes
it's
it
not, you know.
it goes out of frame. It keeps going. And if you look at old cities from the Middle East,
Well, that's where the
old
Capitol is today, right?
yeah, it's the
Yeah,
capital of West
yeah.
Virginia.
The
No, I'm
capital's right
saying
there.
like the image we're looking at right now, where that base between that riverway and the hillside is where the Capitol building sits.
Oh,
I think you're
cool.
right. Also, it has a golding roof,
We're
so
looking from the west. If you ask me, we're looking from the west to the east right now.
Mm,
24 karat gold roof on that baby.
mm. Is it really gold? No
Yeah,
way.
dog. Solid gold. Look it up.
No.
Look it up, bro. It's real. You think I'm lying? It's
Dude,
solid gold.
you want to talk about gold roofs? Look at the
There's
Hare
they're al
Krishnas there in Moundsville, West Virginia, and they're gold roof
Yeah,
for the
dude.
temple.
West Virginia is home of these alchemical alchemists. Nah,
Man.
I don't know.
So
I
what
think
else?
that was part of the
It
reason
really
why
is
they
gold
branched
though,
off
so
from
that's
Virginia.
weird.
To be quite honest with you, I don't think it had. Yeah, there was a little bit to do with the Union and the Confederacy, but all that's wrapped up in the Society of the Cincinnati Dispute anyhow. So
Right.
I think what we're talking about is some of that stuff within West Virginia is the mystical nature of it versus the rest of Virginia.
And Lincoln needed some votes, you know.
Well, we don't know the story about Lincoln. It's funny you mentioned that. I got stuck in a Lincoln rabbit hole just the other day. Apparently, who was his daddy and what did he do? Well, I like to think his daddy was the son of Captain Abraham Lincoln of the Virginia chapter of the Society of Cincinnati, a frontiersman who allegedly got trained by the likes of folks like Abner Vance, who was trained by Daniel Boone in such matters, and then he trained allegedly Davy Crockett and Abraham Lincoln amongst the other some of my other frontier forefathers, the Maynards and whatnot, were involved in there, like Charles Manson, mine's forefather. But nonetheless, wh- apparently,
I think I was
uh,
lying, Tim.
apparently, there you go. Apparently,
So
Lincoln's daddy and his daddy. There's a different guy who was part Cherokee. It seems it was Lincoln's daddy.
so is this not in the picture because it's all right, JJ,
I
No,
think it's flip flop, Tim. It's flip
I didn't.
flop.
I didn't mean to hit that, but I didn't mean to hit. I do have something to share about Abraham Lincoln. I was trying to close that little
okay.
box.
All right, let's just have a gander at this and then I'll go over
Well,
there. So,
let's
so
compare
this is
that one to the one up there in Moundsville. They built on a mound, the Hare Krishnas.
so right, I want to get to that, dude. I really do actually. What was this here though? Do you think this building was here at the time
That's
that
what I'm
that
saying,
picture
dude.
was
It's that
taken?
ancient Greek architecture, right?
Yeah, it
Ancient
seems
Greek
like it.
revival.
Seems like this was an old place and maybe it was an old walled place. So, just saying. Just saying,
Well, what? But
get out of
what's the
there for
purpose of
that.
putting gold on top of a mound as far as geomancy goes? That's what I'm getting at with the Hare Krishnas. Are they tapping into something?
Yeah, dude. They're summoning shit. That's the narrative. That's what they need. That's what they need to do. And they need us to not believe that. We need to think that that's the most craziest thing that they couldn't do that. The schools are just going to say, "Oh, well, the capital's gold in the story. Have a good day,
What
kids." You
you're
know what I mean?
describing is a tale that is as old as Babylon, sir. That's what they did in Babylon. Pay
It's
no
all
attention
bullshit. It's
to
all
what's going on in
bullshit,
the temple.
man. All these dudes are bullshitters, full-time bullshitters. And that's what I've came to notice in my 25 years on this earth. Everyone's full of shit and no one knows shit. That's pretty much how it goes.
So
So
I do think there's a lot to these ideas of the geomancy and the building on these mound sites and the ancient nature of some of these buildings. Now, I don't know when they built this. They say they founded it in 1968, but I don't know what that means, right? They say they founded this in 19. So that's what I'm saying. Like, how old is the Capitol building? How old is
okay.
this fucking building? It was in the hills of West Virginia on a mound outside of Moundsville.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's got if it had walled or if it had walls and it was a walled city like the ones we're finding in Yemen, in the Middle East, all across the Middle East. We've talked about this on here before, JJ. Like there was the amount of stuff that we found over here that was Hebrew, that was Mesopotamian, the Mediterranean. It's staggering. It's
Dude,
all
that's
been
Hindu,
covered
dude.
up.
That's
Yeah,
Hindu.
but
We just added one of the mix right there on top of the list you just named. We just throw in Hindu right there, right?
is this the place that you're talking about? Is
Yeah,
this
and they have a
the
gold
temple?
roof there. It's built on a mound. They say they founded it in 1968. The leader murked some of its followers in the 90s. It's kind of a spook operation at that point. But I don't, dude. When I first heard about this, I'm like, when the fuck did they build this? This is the 90s, and there was no, Wikipedia is the source of
Right.
all information on the interwebs at the time. But the stories I got there were like, oh, it's been there longer than they say it has. So again, I don't know. There's probably has been longer than they say it has.
Mm-hmm. This is wild. Oh my gosh, why? Didn't mean to click on that.
Yeah, it's super crazy though, you know what I mean? Just that this place is there. I want to go
Yeah.
there.
So this is in Moundsville, West Virginia, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Just
yeah,
outside of downtown and corporate limits of it, but yes, sir.
a lot of people don't know this is there. So I'm glad we're pulling it up and look at the inside of
Look at
this
the gold roof
place.
on this bastard too, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Love them gold roofs.
There's
Mhm.
something maybe
That's why we have
related to frequencies with these gold roofs. I don't know. I mean, they say that I've heard it suggested that some of the mounds had gold tops or even copper tops to them.
Right. That's the alchemical process, right? Everything into gold. That's the whole thing. So what are they saying? Are they saying that our thoughts or our what we're doing in this building is, we're transforming it into gold, right? Or well, whatever you view as gold, because it seems like these buildings are over the top, especially the capital of West Virginia. If you've been to Charleston, dude, and you walk through that place, and you're like, what is that doing up there? You know what I mean? Like, why is that gold in Charleston? Like, that's kind of what I think. Because
Yeah.
if
yeah.
you've never been to Charleston, I mean, it's pretty bad.
Well,
Hmm.
not only that, sir, it also, if you look at it in the regards to just the architecture, I'm a big fan of architecture, especially this Greek revival I've been tracking of the Society of Cincinnati nature for so long. And if you go to Belvedere, Illinois, a site of a smiley face killer victim in Boone County, named after Society of Cincinnati, uh, Daniel Boone, Boone County, Illinois. Belvedere is the name of the town. They did a I've tracked these things. They did a ritual to destroy the mound. They claim to use the contents of that mound, like the Ohio Capitol mound and Capitol building. They claim to use the contents of that mound to build the cornerstone of the building of the county building. The county building is an ancient Greek revival, though, right? So it's the same style. Are they continuing to build? Were these things already there? I think there's an argument to be made. They were already
Mm.
there, right?
There you go.
So
So now we're in the shopping aisle. We're grabbing a little bit of Tartaria for our box.
exactly. There you go. And again, it's there's some elements to that. I think there's some validity to, and it's the same folks. So it's the same folks saying, did they build it, or are they just saying they founded it, right? So but we
Mm.
see the same pattern: mounds, Society of Cincinnati, the name game, etc. And as we said before, a
Moundsville.
modern day human sacrifice on the sites of ancient human sacrifice. And this guy in particular I'm talking about, Kyle Rogers was his name. It's May of 2019. He left a concert there in Belvedere, Illinois, a small venue, and was never seen for a few days. And they searched the exact spot he's found on camera with the news, even videotaping these things 3 hours before he's found in 6 inches of water at a mountainside across from a park and 6 inches of water in a river. So that's a great. I think that town, like there, right there's a great example of all of the things we're kind of discussing thus far relative to these mounds.
Yeah, absolutely. What one thing, real quick, because you said something that almost, I think it kind of confirmed something for me, JJ. You said in regards to this temple in Moundsville, West Virginia, with the gold top, this strange temple there. You said that there's spook activity with this place. Well,
Oh, heavy
let
activity.
me tell you why that's interesting to me, right? Because I was looking into this place a little bit, and I started thinking, oh, I get the feeling that there is high tech government stuff here, a government program going on here because this is West Virginia. It's DC's backyard, and it reminded me of like they did the same thing with this Brother Sunburst guy out in California, right? Brother Sunburst had a Yogi UFO community thing going on out there, and he was next door neighbors to Reagan, who's a UFO president. I can break that down some other
He's a
time.
major occultist, likely process. Yes,
And
sir.
this guy, Sunburst, with his shady intelligence back channels, was tasked with storing some really wild Tesla tech out there in California, on next door to Reagan, right? The UFO president, right? So I'm thinking I was thinking there's got to be some spook stuff going on with this temple. This is like the brother sunburst of the East Coast.
Well, I like where your brain hole's at, Tim. So I was just speaking of synchronicities, I was just having a conversation yesterdays about how West Virginia is used as the cult and hood rat shit deep state hotbed of test bed of activity on human beings, no different than California is. So California, you got your West Coast test market, and then West Virginia's your East Coast test market, no different than if McDonald's or any other fast foods corporation is going to roll out a new menu item. They have established test beds: Columbus, Ohio, for the East Coast, Kansas City for the Midwest, etc. So this is the government version of that. What you're describing is the California is the West Coast test bed, East Coast test beds in West Virginia. And at some point in time, this was co-opted in that regard. I don't think it was started that way, because again, I think this is
Mm-hmm.
older than 1968.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Do
I gotta
you
look.
were you a well-traveled man? And I'm not being facetious in the cold sense, because I know folks that are you a traveling man, you know. But in
Yeah.
the 90s, dude, I started flying real early. Like I was probably 6 or 7 when I flew for the first time by myself. Um, and just flying around different family members' houses, getting shipped around places, that kind of deal. Uh, I can't argue at a bad child. I'm just saying I flew a lot, so extended families and whatnot, and I'd see Hare Krishnas everywhere. The folks that inhabited that facility, and suddenly in the 90s, after their leader murked some of his followers in this kind of spooky thing, no more Hare Krishnas at airports anywhere, dude.
Yeah.
They just went poof the
Hey,
way of
what
their beauty.
county is
So
is
it reeks of a spook operation in
Moundsville
that
in,
regard.
JJ?
You just listen to the old Pork Chop Express and take his advice on a dark and stormy night, all right? When some wild-eyed 8-foot-tall maniac grabs your neck, taps the back of your favorite head up against a barroom wall, and he looks you crooked in the eye and he asks you if you've paid your dues, well, you just stare that big sucker right back in the eye, and you remember what old Jack Burton always says at a time like that. Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir, the check is in the mail.
What county is that?
I believe that's Marshall County.
Moundsville?
Yeah, Marshall County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some linkage here. There's linkage here. And I think that we're only sort of scratching the surface here when it comes to government high-tech operations, weird technology, high strange technology, high strange bases. They're all in West Virginia. It's all in DC's backyard. And then you find out that there's mounds everywhere, and that there were people trying to open up portals on these mound sites. Who was it? It was who was the occultist that went in and went to a mound site and was trying to open up a portal?
Well, the Bait Cabal of the
Yes.
Typhonian offshoot of the OTO is notorious for that, and their Cincinnati magical situations. But I just learned of a different one of the same regard of a Typhonian person, OTO, offshoot, Typhonian, nature of Thelema, doing the same stuff this Bait Cabal was doing in Ohio and Kentucky. They were doing it in Wisconsin.
Hmm. Yeah, I found some Wisconsin stuff as well. There was
So
a Lovecraftian cult based out of Chicago who was
that's it.
traveling out to Wisconsin, and they were doing magic on the lake. They were using the water. It
That's it, sir.
was
The Lovecraftian is the
Right.
OTO Typhonian order, the
That's
offshoot. It's not an
That's
official
Crowley.
OTO, as I've been corrected on numerous times. It is an offshoot, but it is OTO plus Lovecraft.
Now, Crowley was in Point Pleasant too, right, JJ?
Oh, he definitely came through Cincinnati. He definitely came through areas of these Adena Mountains of Kentucky where these Typhonians have been doing these portal rituals. So there is connectivity there from Crowley directly to the disciples thereof. I don't know if he was in Point Pleasant. It'd be interesting to know.
I thought he was
He was in the
there
region, so I mean, it'd be interesting to know that,
In
right?
Ohio too.
He's definitely in the region, sir.
he
Yeah, for sure.
liked doing magic where there was water. He holed himself up on an island in New York. It was just Crowley out there doing magic, and he also did the same thing when he went to New Hampshire, and he stayed out there on this lake. It's in the White Mountains, and what's crazy about that is
You mean to tell me where Ghislaine Maxwell was just hiding out before she got arrested?
it's in. I don't know if it's yes, it's
No,
in
it's
those
no, it's the same.
mountains.
It's the same exact vicinity.
Well, I'll do you one more. It's also where a couple
Betty and
years
Barney Hill,
later, Betty and Barney Hill, the most
same
famous
spot.
UFO adult. It's you can see. So I looked at it. And I talked to Alexander Petikoff about this too from Small Town Monsters because he's been out there and he was showing me. Um, he showed me the peak, one of the peaks where Betty and Barney Hills had this incident, right? They saw this UFO come around this peak of this mountain. If you can stand on Crowley's Mountain that's near this lake and see where the Betty and Barney Hill incident went down, you can see it from where Crowley was doing magic. So are
And
we
from where
now we're
Ghislaine
back to
Maxwell was hiding for no good reason. She's a French citizen. The French have not they have not extradited a French citizen since 1794. And for some reason, she said, "I'm need to go to New Hampshire."
yeah, it's I know. Boy, they gave her a big old house out there in the middle of nowhere.
Dude, it's like 10 minutes from the Betty and Barney Hillside, I believe,
Mhm.
or 10 miles.
Oh, really? That's
Isn't this the
wow.
first instance of the Men in Black too, right? Betty and Barney Hill.
That would
Is
have
Um,
that
been Maury Island in
yeah, I was gonna
1947.
say, I think we had some Men in Black stuff
But
there, right?
yes, but they
but
weren't
weren't
called the
they
Men in Black. They
weren't
weren't
they
your
contacted, Betty
they
and
weren't
Barney?
your typical Men in Black in the Maury Island incident. Like they were acting like Men in Black, but they just didn't have the those shades and like the suit and all that. But after Betty and Barney Hill, I don't know. Betty and Barney Hill contacted somebody from the military as soon as this happened, and I want to say they were investigated by a guy from the Air Force or the Navy who came out there.
What's that OID, JJ, or what's it called? Office of Internal of OIA or
Is this a test, sir? Am I being tested right now?
no, I'm just asking you. I'm trying to remember. Was it OSD or OID?
I don't recall which department.
It's the Air Force's uh research department or whatever. They're
Yeah, I
I'll
know
get
what you're
back.
talking about, but I don't remember what
Is
they're.
it OID or
So the first
Oh, are you
time you
talking about the
see,
Project Blue Book? AFIT?
no.
no, they have like a operation
It's
of
a special operation group.
yeah.
Hmm.
So the first time you see the Men in Black that I could tell was 1947. They seem
Okay.
to emerge right alongside of the whole UFO modern phenomenon in and of itself. You've got three major incidents that kicked this thing off. Um, we can talk about whether or not this was all a big psyop or not later, but it was Maury Island, 1947, Roswell, of course, 1947, and Kenneth Arnold in 1947. That's why we have a UFO movement today. It all goes back to that year. And you
Yeah.
see
I think you're spot on, sir.
a lot of
What
stuff
else do we
coming
get
out
that
of
year? A
there.
lot of Nazis, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this all happens in it dances right alongside of the Project Paperclip. And I mean, there's so much that you could go decode with 1947. The world we're living in right now is the way it is because of that year. And, we can have that conversation, like I said, about what really happened in Roswell. I would suggest that it probably was a Nazi craft. I think that something did come down out of the air there. I think that we had Tesla technology because when Tesla passed away in 1943, they sent Trump's uncle in there to retrieve this technology. And some of the technology he was tasked with retrieving was some sort of a beam that brought flying objects down out of the sky.
Yeah, that's
No,
the
dude. I think all this stuff is alien shit, and I think Lee
that's the
Maxwell
death
was up
ray.
there because of alien shit too. So I stand corrected. It was 80 miles away from the Betty and Barney Hill incident, but you can see that mountain we're talking about from her mountain here, and it is built on a mountain in Washington, New Hampshire.
Okay.
156 acres she had right there.
Mm.
To add to
This whole
that,
mountain you're seeing right here, basically right here where the road is, that was where she was living. This whole mountain.
wasn't Tim, the Nazis, weren't they trying to buy Tesla's death ray, right? That was a big competition there for a while, I believe, because the Nazis wanted that tech of Tesla's allegedly. Like, I don't know about Tesla. Like, I go back and forth. Like, is he like a ploy? Is he like the real deal? Like, I don't know because I
No,
know they
he
make.
he was not. The whole problem they had with Tesla is that he wouldn't play ball with them. He wasn't dancing with the deep state. From what I mean, we could do an episode on this, bro. There's so much
I
stuff
love
to
Nikola
Tesla.
Tesla. I
There's
love
so
Nikola Tesla.
much untold stuff with Tesla that is like worth bringing out and putting on the table and bringing the people's attention. I'm not like 100% pro, like, oh, he was a good guy. I don't think he was one of the bad guys necessarily. That's kind of my point here. I think he died because he wasn't playing ball. And I think he wanted the best for humanity. At certain points in his life, you could tell that he was trying to help humanity move forward. I mean, his technology was stomped out by the industrialists, the Rockefellers, the people who's the guy who started the big electric
Edison?
service?
Thomas
Yeah,
Edison. Well, so
Edison's and
I love this topic, fellas. And if I just may add this one question to get your gents' thoughts. Why do we have? And again, I'm a big fan of Tesla. Every time I go to Los Angeles, one of my first stops, and for years I've been there over a dozen times. I've given my own tours of the Tesla coil that's in operation at Griffith Park. So I've been a big fan of these matters. My best friend in life, my grandfather, was an electrical engineer amongst many trades, and his Black Project's top secret Mr. Fix-It career of 37 years for the U.S. government. But so he was a big fan of Tesla. He actually started at Westinghouse at one point in time where Tesla worked. So he got me started on these Tesla matters at a younger age. But why is there no video of Nikola Tesla in any kind of demonstration? Yet we have plenty of video of Thomas Edison.
Right.
well, it's the big companies. It's the companies that Edison was working for. I'm trying to remember the name of that
Yeah,
module.
dude. But like, if Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla are doing these nationwide, they're rivals. Why do we have no video of those rivalries? Why do we have no video of Nikola Tesla's
Because
demonstrations?
it's the victors who write the history books.
Yeah. Well, when you want that
Right.
Victor beating the guy who's losing
Hey,
in the video, right?
I know it's cliche to say that. I'm not just going with the easiest answer here. I really think that that's the case.
Right.
Isn't it a
But
little
because
strange we have no video evidence of Nikola Tesla's existence?
They don't want
Tesla
you.
was direct current, correct? Yeah,
They
he was DC. He was a DC guy. And what he was proposing was the Earth was producing its own free energy, right? And that's what his main thing.
Yes.
He's working on some power technology to somehow, harness that from the ground and then use it in our homes. But what I found was weird is that's still in use today. If you're any familiar with any farming, it's called what's the name of it? Anyways, they stick copper into the ground and makes the crops actually grow higher. some what's it called? I'm trying to think of the name, but that is true.
Geomancy? We talking geomancy?
No, 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 no. Um,
So Thomas Edison was the direct current, Tesla was the AC, and again they
it's
had a
called rotting
national
or
campaign,
dowling, I
right?
think.
Like we just don't have. We're told these stories. Again, I'm a big fan of all these ideas and various technologies. I'm just, well,
Electro.
I'm not saying this is my opinion. Like I've toyed around with the idea that Nikola Tesla's a character we're sold to us as a essentially a limited hangout false narrative, right? Because they want to hide that technology. They're hiding it under this false narrative of a character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the technology doesn't exist. I'm just saying the narrative we're sold around it is
Right.
false.
JP Morgan
Eh,
is the guy who I was trying to
Okay.
think of. So when I was talking about these big industrialist moguls who helped shape the way the world is that we're living in today, it's like I think it would have been a better place if we would have gone with some of Tesla's ideas rather than Edison's ideas. And I really do think it's that simple. I think they decided that they wanted us all to have an energy bill every month, and that's
Right.
why this got covered up. They're
Well,
still
you're not
making
wrong,
money off
sir.
of
You're
this.
not wrong at all. And you can go look at the Nikola Tesla's coil at Griffith Park, Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, and you can see how it operates and how it wirelessly charges things and runs a light bulb, etc. It's also depicted in the film by Christopher Nolan, and how it's accurately depicted that Nikola Tesla allegedly provided a wireless electricity to Colorado Springs, I believe, in 1932.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
it's multifaceted, right? Tim, I don't want to say it's just mainly about the money, right? I think diving deeper into this we're more powerful than we're led to believe. Why hide it if you weren't afraid, right? If we were just
absolutely.
these dumb, useless eaters, as Eat the Bugs has to say, then
Mm-hmm.
why are you trying to hire stuff? Like, what are you afraid of us tapping into, brother? Like, you know,
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Like, I mean, we've hit on two or three things at least already in this show that I want to do shows on. Like the Tesla thing would be awesome. But meanwhile, like, so what JJ was talking about there, meanwhile, you have um JP Morgan, I think funding Edison, and I think that's how you get General Electric. And General Electric, going back to the Nazis, they
hmm
were helping Nazis come over here. They were before paperclip was officially a
oh yeah,
thing. Um, they were working out. It was von Braun who worked out a deal in 1944 before the war was over with General Electric to come over here. That's how we have a paperclip was because of
yup.
General Electric.
Are you
So
familiar with General Electric also funding the fucking Nazis to go into the war?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I
that's the
mean,
exoteric understanding, right, gents? Because Werner von Braun had a pen pal relationship with
excuse my
Jack
language, but
Parsons when Jack Parsons was 16 years old. So we're sold an exoteric telling a lot of these things, an exoteric and I think false narratives around this film. But this is Christopher Nolan's prestige in that film. This is an accurate portrayal, allegedly, of history where Tesla was in Colorado Springs and provided electricity. Now, that's not going to hurt you. That's the difference between the Edison version and the Tesla version, allegedly, right? Of these electrical charges. That's the Tesla coil is not going to shock you. It is going to provide
right,
wireless electricity, though. It's a weird wizardry, but
It is
you can see it
wizardry.
working with your eyeballs and your brain holes at
Yeah.
that Griffith Park Observatory. But we do see it in fiction. I think
Yes.
there's some stuff that is again. There's a lot to these tales. It's not just
right.
that
Oh,
simple.
you're
But
It's
right.
because it's alternating the current, right? I'm sorry, I got it backwards. Tesla was about alternating current, not direct current. That's what he was saying about the free flow of electricity. That even
right.
like my dad, he's an electrician. So me and JJ always knock all the time all these big podcasters or spokespersons or higher ups is who's your dad and what do they do? Well, my
Well,
dad's an
never a plumber,
electrician.
sir. Never a
Right. They're
plumber.
never plumbers, electricians, carpenters, never nothing like that. But
I can
anyhow,
I can tell you
he
J.P.
can
Morgan's daddy was here in a second, sir. Please continue.
he can attest that there is still no formula for electricity. Like electricity just is. It's not. If you think of it in this mind frame, it's he like it's. I wish I had him to explain it, but there is no exact. You can't replicate. Like it's not replicable because alternating current is alternating constantly. So there's no, it's something to do with the electrons and neutrons. I'm not a scientist, don't claim to be, so I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. I'll stop there. But anyways, he's saying that there is no, it's kind of like gravity, right? It's only a theory. It's not been proven. The theory of gravity is just is, right? It's not an actual. It's never been proven, and that's the same thing with electricity.
So, real quick point here, just about some of the stuff we've
I
talked
know I went
about.
9 million different directions there, but
I like it. I like it. I
I do
mean,
that.
we're painting a picture
Good
here,
shit.
man. This is broad strokes, so I think we're painting a nice picture here. But I just want to point out that the Nazis in the U.S. that, of course, that really kicks in gear in 1947. That's when they're given all their aerospace jobs and various other
It's the green
jobs.
light, right? It's the green light go.
It's the official green light. They're in suits, in positions, in government and aerospace and everything else. They're running our spy program. Big, and by 1947, Reinhard Gehlen is running our spy program behind the scenes. They just called it the CIA, but he helped it, build it up with the OSS and all that. But what you also see emerging here in 1947, like I said, is the UFO age, which we just broke that down. But I want to say that also emerges at the same time as the space age, because JJ brought up what's his name, Rocket Boy Parsons. Well, wouldn't you
Kim Jong
know,
Un
Jack
or Rocket
Parsons,
Man.
Marvel Jack Parsons. Who
Jack
was his daddy and
Parsons.
what did he do? Same place
I,
we're going to find old boy's daddy there from a moment ago. J.P. Morgan, both their forefathers were members of the Massachusetts chapter of the Society of Cincinnati.
Jack Parsons was Society of Cincinnati.
His third great grandfather, Captain William Parsons, Massachusetts chapter. J.P. Morgan's great grandfather, a Captain Joseph Morgan, Massachusetts chapter of Society of Cincinnati.
Unbelievable. So, wow. Wow. Just before I get derailed, I think my thing is like that year was very important. And there's a lot of things that we're talking about today.
Super important.
1947 is a major turning point for this country. And I was just thinking about that Jack Parsons story of him going out to the Mojave Desert in 1946 with L. Ron Hubbard. They're scrying, they're doing magic, they're doing Crowley stuff, literally. And they start talking to these old gods. And I think that ties directly into this
Cthulhu.
conversation we're having today, because this country, North America, these lands beneath our feet right now, were places where people were getting in touch with the old gods, from Pazuzu to the Whore of Babylon, Ishtar,
Cthulhu. They were all about Cthulhu in those ceremonies you're talking about, sir.
to
I've been studying a little bit of
Lovecraft.
these matters. That fat, doughy bastard, Michael Aquino, is all about Cthulhu. We don't know who his daddy or what he did is, but I would assert, as someone very learned in these matters, has proposes me as well in this theory, that he is the moonchild of those ceremonies and the Cthulhu nonsense. And Cthulhu is all based on what all that Typhonian stuff around these mounds we were talking about, with the machinations of the old gods of what's his name? What I was about to call him J.R. Tolkien. What's the dude's name there?
R.R.
No, the other guy.
Peter Thiel.
No, the
Oh,
monster guy from New England with the Typhonian stuff.
what's your-
All the Typhonian order. Uh,
The we were just
I'm
talking. Damn
stumped.
it, I'm horrible. I will just call him Phil for the second. But it's it's the dude in New
Not
Hampshire.
Phil Z. Not
No,
Phil Z.
Lord of mercy, this is gonna. It's the what's the guy we're talking about? The sci-fi monster guy.
Lovecraft, bro.
Lovecraft. Thank you, sir. I'm terrible with names. I was about to go
It's
him
all
Phil,
good.
but
We
so
got
we
it
see
out.
the Typhonian is the Lovecraft stuff mashed together with the OTO stuff. We see they're all about Cthulhu, which is in the Lovecraft tales. We see they're talking about Cthulhu, and then Parsons Hubbard Moonchild rituals. We see this doughy bastard may in fact be the product of those rituals, and he's all about Cthulhu in his writings and ceremonies.
Mm. Yeah, he was. Yeah,
The old gods. I don't know what Cthulhu means, sir, but you're right. It is something about
Yeah,
the old gods.
yeah. It's
And
even
where were they?
LaVey, I think, may have gotten some of this from Aquino, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Aquino was taking a page out of LaVey's book. Either way, I know LaVey was formulating magic, uh, specifically to sort of be it was he was making magic out of his Lovecraft books. LeVay was.
Yeah.
They had some sort of a system of magic based on Lovecraft's work, and I think maybe that's where Aquino got it, was from
Where did
LeVay.
Lovecraft
Was
get it?
from his dad. His dad was in some sort of an order. He had a big esoteric library, and
There you go.
they said that when his dad died, when he was on his deathbed, he was in the bedroom yelling out the names of like Cthulhu.
Yep. Who is his daddy? What does he do? These things get passed down to him. These folks are born into it.
So
Right.
Lovecraft heard his dad yelling out all these strange sort of primordial ancient names, the names of these entities, and he
That's weird.
wrote those into his storyline. And his dad was, yeah, esoteric order. I mean, who knows? Lovecraft's dad, was he Society of Cincinnati? I mean,
Challenge
you know.
accepted, sir. Challenge accepted. So we do know that his tales go around the area of which we find the whole area there in New Hampshire. That is the environment in which these Lovecraftian tales pop off.
Hmm. And can I just do a real quick little thing here, just for people listening? If you're new to the show, and you're kind of new to some of the stuff we're talking about here, when we say a Society of the Cincinnati, I just want to like give a 1,000 foot overview of that. You know, this is a society that's extremely powerful, that predates the country itself. It was founded in May 13th, 1783. That was 4 years before the framing of the Constitution in 1787. Washington himself was the president of the Society of Cincinnati. This was 6 years before he becomes the first president of the U.S. He starts it with Henry Knox and a couple other fellas. So basically, what we're talking about here is this secret society, the members of which were Masons and initiates who founded this country. In fact, 23 signers of the Constitution were in the society. So the society had what, like, it had 14 sub societies, one for each of the 13 colonies and one for France. So there you go.
You, sir, know your society, Cincinnati fun facts. I appreciate that and respect that, sir.
Yeah. I just want to give people like, what are these guys talking about? That's that's heavy,
Let's not
right? It's
let's not
very
soon forget
important.
though they are occultists of an ancient alien cargo cult variety as well. On top of that, and descendants of the Knights Templar. They
Yeah,
are the modern day
That's
bloodlines.
absolutely.
that to me is what sticks out the most.
The Templar thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, listen to the show that me and JJ I just dropped it like today. I'll send you the link to it if you want to
Okay.
like dig on this Templar stuff. I mean, we went in deep with that. I
That's
did
Well,
the
not.
name, man.
that's
It's a real barn burner, sir.
Yeah.
that's where we get into because like Freemasonry is kind of like everyone, if you're like everyone thinks like we're bashing like Freemasons. We're not. We're bashing upper management of the Masons here.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're like a second degree Mason, like a kindergarten Mason, like dude, you're just
The
part of a
front porch
frat.
Masons, right?
It's a frat basically,
Yeah.
you know. And then once you get to the higher levels and the blackmail comes involved, then you're allowed to know things and then you got to do things. And then, you wind up running around in parades with goofy hats dressed up as clowns, which may or may not link to the fallen angels themselves. I don't know about that, but
Dagon hats.
No, this is exactly what
Androgynous fish gods that came out of the
Yeah.
Gulf of Persia.
We were just talking about that the other night on Operation GCD, sir. I appreciate where your brain holes at both of y'all, because also they're landing to your point. I've been saying this is my point. Whenever I talk about the Society of Cincinnati, I'm not shit talking. Well, I am shit talking the anti-liberty faction of that group, but they've existed before the group was founded. There was George Washington was trying to put a lid on shit. He wasn't trying to start his own secret society necessarily. I don't believe so. He was the one trying to put a lid on shit and saw where shit was going. He already had spy networks already operating following this anti-liberty faction at the time in which he founded the Society of Cincinnati before America was founded. So there's a different tale there to be told, but I say that even some of the folks on the liberty side of that argument, they've lost the plot line. You know what I mean?
yep.
They're compromised, they're dumb, depraved, etc. You can put a lot of insert a lot of the adjectives there, but they've lost the plot line.
Power.
Don't know.
hungry.
They don't understand America or what it's about. I say this. I don't specifically know any of my family members and kinfolk that are members, but I assure you I have a lot that are. and looking at knowing my family heritage and trees and seeing all the, where all the memberships lie. I have a few guesses. I don't know a lot of those folks personally. I've met a couple of them, intermittently throughout life, third and fourth cousins kind of deals that would be members of the society, but nonetheless, this is a powerful group. If you hear a name in public in our society general mindset, if there's a name that you can go to the grocery store and hear someone talk about, it's a Society of Cincinnati name. Charlie Kirk, his fifth great grandfather, Lieutenant Jesse or Joseph Kirk of the Virginia chapter of the Society of Cincinnati. Let's take the only Epstein victim folks know about, Virginia Giuffre. Her mother is a Cabell.
Yeah.
Her uncle, her mother's brother, is very likely the hereditary descendant of a very powerful member of the society, Colonel Cabell, who was a governor of Virginia.
AKA named after Cabell County, West Virginia, right?
Well, yes, sir, that is correct. But that one's a different Cabell there, or Cabell.
Okay. But they were society too, right?
Well, there was four Cabell brothers in Virginia. One of those descendants was the guy that JFK fired. The four-star General U.S. Air Force Deputy Director of the CIA, Charles Cabell.
Now, how does that tie into that dude down there in the butthole surfers?
Well, Earl Cabell, the mayor of Dallas, was Charles Cabell's younger brother. He's the guy that allegedly changes the parade route. So there's not an aspect of the JFK situation that's not Society of Cincinnati. You got the Cabells, right? Charles Cabell, Earl Cabell's his younger brother.
The guy that announced it, right? That's the butthole surfers.
Mr. Peppermint?
Yeah.
That's the butthole surfers' dad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the first guy to ever announce the JFK stuff on TV that day in Dallas. I don't know. That's a good point. Challenge accepted, sir. He's probably Society of Cincinnati.
So wasn't Gibby Hayes the lead singer of that band? He started that as alongside of this guy named Leary, right?
Well, that's correct, sir. And Gibby Haynes and Paul Leary, who claims not to be descendant or related to Timothy Leary, but Gibby Haynes and Paul Leary would go live at Timothy Leary's house and be drug guinea pigs, along with Al Jorgensen, Mr. Neo Process of the Ministry Band.
Yeah. So it's like, and this band, they were putting out grunge records before grunge was really officially a thing, weren't they?
Your knowledge, sir. They are the godfathers of grunge. Grunge came from Texas, not Seattle.
Right. They were doing it down there. They were doing it in Dallas.
We were doing it in Texas.
Dude, and if you look at that video, it is a parody of the JFK situation.
Dude, it's wild, man. Once you mentioned that on your podcast, I went down that because I was familiar, but that's like the only. What's the name of that song?
Pepper.
Yeah.
They've got
that's
some
that's the only hit I'm familiar with because
a little bit before it was an LSD fueled band.
Yeah, listen to the lyrics, bro. It said everybody was dying. They were doing it in Texas.
Yeah, it's like was this a total CIA psyop or what? Because the guy's name is Leary. The guy's name's Leary, and they're pushing LSD. And
it's Crowley shit, dude. Timothy Leary
on?
said he was the reincarnation of Crowley, despite that the math not working out there. Crowley was alive when he was born, but. He's continuing on this, the perpetration and degradation of society, like Crowley was talking about the age of horse through LSD.
What was
through the marketing
Sharon
of it
Tate's
through the music,
husband's
right?
name?
That's marketing it through the music,
yes,
right?
100%.
JJ. What was Sharon Tate's husband's name?
Roman Polanski.
Oh, no. I was just thinking I was looking at the lyrics of the song.
Well, Sharon Tate's father, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army Intelligence, Paul Tate. His second great grandfather, Lieutenant Jesse Tate, Virginia chapter of the Society of Cincinnati. So again, if you know the name, it's probably there's a reason for it. So what I wanted to bring this home on my point I made earlier though is we're sold a bunch of false narratives. We try to insert some details in between and try to discern a better, more accurate sight picture. But in many respects, folks, these are open secrets. Folks know about these things, just not in large volumes and widespread. For example, I came across this rabbit hole the other day. This is Abraham Lincoln's dad. I would put money on it. So, and within this family of the Enlows. This is a Cherokee Scots Irish family there in Western North Carolina. Abraham Lincoln's mother was the housekeeper here. She got fired for getting knocked up by the dad.
Oh,
this is the dad. And if you take a look at what them boys look like from that family. This is one of them Enlow boys. This would be his half brother, Abraham's half brother.
Yeah,
man, they look like Nephilim, bro. They got
Look
the
at the
Well,
height.
neck.
dude, that's so. There we go. So we're sold a bunch of narratives. This will be one of those bloodlines.
Yeah, they're
Dude,
too tall for the
I think
time.
they're all lizard people, bro.
Well, dude, that's what I'm saying. So I do agree with folks like Cyrus Thomas's theories that the heritage of the Cherokee are essentially the mound builders. We see there's a lot of evidence of that. We can get into disputes of who those folks were. But my point being is, I have a lot of ideas. It's the combination of a lot of folks getting put down over the years by other cultures like Rome, primarily and exclusively, mainly, really. But we see all the basically those other royal families, if you will, from those other cultures, all congregating eventually. That's why you have the Cherokee and the Scots Irish so far apart in different continents, doing the same shit, looking the same ways, and living the same culture, calling their families clans.
Mm.
This is not by mistake or coincidence. And we see these are bloodlines. That would be one of those bloodlines, the machinations of the Scots, Irish, and the Cherokee there within the Inlows. I got into this because I went back into my DNA mysteries, and I assure you they are a deep mystery. And I don't want to get into all those matters tonight. I'm not an Inlow. I have a lot of Inlows relatives and kinfolk because, again, Scots, Irish, Cherokee, and that's predominantly all my heritage.
Mm. So when Lincoln was standing over the hillside there, gazing upon the
Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls for the first time, and he said what he said, right? Was he talking about his forefathers who were standing there
Absolutely,
before
dude.
him, who were
Absolutely. And I actually
giants?
had that conversation. What you're describing, what you just inferred, I salute you, sir. I had that conversation with a fellow member of Clan Vance, an old fellow who was a bartender and server at my favorite bar and establishment in the world, McSorley's Old Irish
Chili's.
Ale House.
Oh,
So we were having that conversation there. This fellow I met, my dude Brennan, I met there years ago, and why I became a regular. He was, because he always gave me VIP status because he was a member of Clan Vance. We established that early on in our discussions on my first visit there. But and because he declared me as being too Irish to be there, he says, "Boy, your face is too red to be here." And I said, well, let's not get started on that, old man. So it's the oldest Irish pub in New York City, oldest bar in New York City, 1854.
is it
And
down there near Castle Clinton?
it's in the East Village. It's 7 East 3rd Street.
You, sir, may have been on an old Aldebaran star alignment.
I have no. We'll have to get in some of that
We'll
ancient
have to
history
get
of New
into
York
that.
City right there, sir.
Yeah, that's
There's
it.
lot to be said
Stargate, little
about that.
Stargate action.
A lot to be
Yeah.
said why George Washington set up shop. There is not only headquarters in the war after they ran the British out, but as the first capital of America. But Abraham Lincoln, before he went to Niagara Falls, went to McSorley's Old Irish Ale House.
Probably want to
Same
check
trip.
out the star alignment, bro. There just happens to be a bar right on that star alignment.
Well,
Uh,
and a bar that he visited right before he went and gave that speech at Niagara Falls that you're referencing right now.
yeah,
Same trip.
I'd love to see if the bar is in a perfect line in between Vanderbilt's Egyptian obelisk and the old star fort of Castle Clinton. Would love to.
It's pretty damn close. And when we're starting to talk about the actual landscape and city planning of Manhattan, you're talking about Clan Vance, sir. Not one of my Vances, but of one of what would be Abner Vance's uncle's descendants.
Yeah, yeah. Man, and we talk about this bloodline, right? And the potential of Abraham Lincoln maybe having giants in his bloodline, dare I say Nephilim or something of the likes. And
I mean, right?
I just think about like those people and what they believed in. It's not unlike Vanderbilt's Egyptian obelisk. Like that they had these crazy beliefs, right? They were believing in a lot of these entities. Like we've mentioned
Yeah,
a few on
dude.
the show today. Like we've mentioned like Dagon came up, Oannes has come up, Pazuzu, Cthulhu, even Ishtar came up, and like talking about these cities, right? I think what we're finding here is a a watermark that's on all the cities, an ancient sort of watermark where it's like there it's all over the place, but it's also here in Nashville. Like, because I've been looking into these esoteric affairs of the old Nashville, the city that was here before the current city, and because I found two separate records that say they were ancient cities here that Nashville was built upon, and when you to tie it in with these entities and with this ancient belief system, why is there a 49-foot statue of Athena here in town, encaged in a Parthenon? You look into Athena,
On a
it's
mound site. The
on a
Parthenon's built on mounds.
it's Athena in the old legends emerges from the head of Zeus after his head was split open
Man, you
by a
ain't kidding,
sword.
sir.
So it's
I
a
apologize. Go
very
ahead.
psychedelic story where it says that Athena emerged from Zeus's head like it was a portal, and she was like fully grown and ready for war. So why is that here in Nashville? Right? It goes back to these old gods, man. This is the land of the old gods.
Yep.
Um,
And the football teams clearly state that, you know what I mean?
yeah,
You have the New York Football Giants, the Nashville Titans, who else?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Dude, you ain't kidding there, Tim. This is pretty much on a close alignment, these major sites of Washington's and then Lincoln's importance
yeah.
there in Manhattan. And then where they put the Vanderbilts put the giant dick statue.
hmm There's a couple other things on the alignment. There's an old church. I'll have to look in my notes. I don't remember the name of the church, but there's also a square.
I mean, if you
Something
take
old
McSorley's
Station
out of here,
Square.
dude, that's almost a direct line right there, man.
It is, man, bro. Yeah, yeah. That's wild. Is that
It's
the
pretty
t
wild when you. That's what I'm saying. I like to look at things, man. I like to map them out. I like to look at whether it's crime or anything else. You start looking at things like this, man. You're like, wait a second. There's a lot.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, well, have anyone seen? Have y'all ever heard of Manhattan Hinge? I think that's what they call it. So on the
no.
equinoxes, you can see the
Oh
alignments
yeah,
laid
between the
out by
buildings.
that Vance fellow I was talking about. You know, what I mean, one of the city planners there in Manhattan. You can see the alignments they set up. Yeah, on the equinoxes, it shoots down. You can just see a straight shot down. I think it's Sixth Avenue.
hmm I've seen a picture of that. It's remarkable.
I've witnessed it, sir. It's very remarkable because again, there's a lot of buildings, a lot of planning, a lot of forethought in which to accomplish that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean this all goes back to older stuff. Even that Parthenon here in Nashville used to sit right next to a pyramid. I have the pictures of it. They tore it down sometime in the early 1900s, apparently. But I have all these old records, and one that states that Nashville was this ancient city here, right? And there was a cave here, but it wasn't just a natural cave. It was like a catacomb. It was like a cavern. It's like, and it just kept going. It was a tunnel as well, and it was like about a mile long, they said, and it connected to our star fort, Fort
That's
Negley.
weird.
We have a star fort here as well, and the opening to that catacomb is right where that Parthenon is, and right where that pyramid was today. So I think that whoever built probably the pyramid put it right over the mouth of that catacomb. And when they tore the pyramid down, they closed that up for good. But this stuff is
Yeah,
just
dude. Well, what you're describing, we're seeing right what you just said, sir. We're seeing that exhibited and indicated right here in Manhattan. There's folks doing the same practices and principles across time here in the same geographies on these ancient sites, and they're doing so in the same using the same kind of mathematical alignments.
mm, yeah, absolutely,
Because
man.
this was an equinox alignment, no different than you'll find an equinox alignment on Serpent Mound or Sperm and Egg Mound. Same difference.
Free fries when you get vaccinated. I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this. I want you to look at this and think about, if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination.
That's remarkable. Was the Twin Towers near this, a part of this?
So I think the closest alignment you get is 14th Street, all the
Okay.
way up to 7. There's multiple alignments. I think the first one you get, I said third, 6th Avenue. I think it's 14th Street. I haven't been in regular Manhattan for years, so I'm gonna need to correct. McSorley's is 15th East 7th Street, not 7th East 15th Street, because I did that one time years ago. But I think you see these alignments on, I think, 14th, 23rd. There's a number of them, but I think the closest one to World Trade Center site would be 14th Street. Let me
Hmm.
see.
So we might have to do, we could talk about doing a part two because there's some stuff that I came across that I won't have
Yeah,
time to lay
absolutely.
out. I won't have time to lay it out today. But basically, talking about is the land itself here in this country, mystical and spiritual and all that stuff, like
Cursed,
cursed, that the curses go along with
Yeah, this
that.
is your closest.
hexed.
Your closest alignment is Washington Union Square Park over here in the village to
Okay.
down here to where the World Trade Centers are down here.
So one of the things I looked into was the spiritualist movement oriented and founded on mound sites of New York, since we're in New York,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
the
so
burnt over district stuff, right?
yes, sir. So we're in New York City right now, but if you go
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this
west,
though? While we're here,
that looks like the Ishtar Gate, Babylonian.
Yeah, the
and
gate.
there's unknown Revolutionary War soldiers, there's graves of the unknown soldiers that built it. And this is Washington Square Park. So when was this built? When was this son of a bitch built? Right?
Hmm. Right. How long was it there? Does that predate New Amsterdam even? Because we know New York
I
used to
would
be
say
called.
yes, sir. I
Yeah.
would say yes, sir.
Yeah. This might go back to the Pazuzu Piazzu thing that we talked
That's what I'm
about.
saying. Dude, look when you said that, look at some of the imagery we see on here, right? We see a lot of not just the eagle, but we see some of that kind of same imagery with some of these winged creatures, if you will. I'll call them. I don't know if they're angels or what. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
See the
sure.
winged creatures.
Hmm. That could be,
One man's Mothman's
goddesses.
another man's angel, sir.
Yeah. That could be a goddess, right?
Yeah, it could be. I'm just saying, it's how much different is that than Mothman?
Hmm. It looks a lot like Athena. This particular image here looks a lot like the Athena that we have here in Nashville, and
Well,
she's
absolutely, and Athena's part of their match. So the Society of Cincinnati mashed together all those ancient goddesses: Athena, Diana, Hecate, right? And then Lady Liberty. That we get, and that's where we get America, Columbia, their
yeah,
goddess.
yeah, the dove, Columbi, the dove. Dove is associated with Ishtar and Anna. Yeah,
But I don't think when we were talking that stuff earlier and on my brain hole, I don't see much difference than this indications of what we see Lady Liberty. So Lady Liberty, Columbia, Lady Liberty, America here, she's always depicted like you're seeing here with what you're saying is the Diana features, is she's depicted with those. She's a hunting and war goddess, if you will. Nonetheless, I don't see any difference between that and the depictions of what you're describing there with that rock engravings and with the Mothman situation. It's the fundamental features of the archetype.
Right. Can I share my screen? One thing I found really something. You said New Amsterdam, so let me pull something up. It's so weird, dude, because all these for example, all these different, forts, back in these days, this is where things I like to go because things get a little wild here. You know what I mean? I like to get a little, it gets a little loose, when people think you're crazy for saying this stuff and they're, summoning different things, what have you. Let's go ahead and
You're a
share
Looney Tune,
this.
sir. I'm out of here. I can't believe you're saying these things.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
I'm
go
I'm
ahead and share
appalled.
this. Okay, so here's a star fort, right? This is a perfect representation of a star fort. Michigan's known for a lot of them. Um, up in that neck of the woods, a lot of star forts up there. But if you look at this fort here, it's got four sides. You come over here, you go to New Amsterdam. Well, here, I mean, is this the same? You know what I mean? Is this the same fort here? What are we talking about? What are they doing here in New York with these forts?
yeah.
What are they doing in the forts in general, right?
There were several of those star forts right there in that general area.
I mean, it's the same thing. You know what I mean?
One of the
Yeah,
most seminal events in American history occurred on a star fort in the War of 1812 in there over in the Baltimore area there of Fort Key. Francis Scott Key wrote the
Francis
national
Scott
anthem.
Keybridge, yeah.
I'm sorry, the Star Spangled Banner.
Star Spangled Banner. Yeah. So that was that. Okay.
That's bring up that one, sir. That's a star fort.
Oh shoot.
where was that at?
It's in the Baltimore Harbor. It's Fort Key, right? Am I naming it after
I
the
think that's
man song?
I think that's the name of it.
I thought so.
Well, funny enough, there's a star fort associated with this spiritualist movement that I was talking about as well. Um,
And that bridge collapsed there, this Francis
That
Scott
was
Key
right there.
Bridge.
That was right there.
Yeah. The Battle
Seems.
of Baltimore.
Yeah.
so
Um, a lot up here though is very Catholicized. There's a lot of Catholics in Maryland, DC area. Catholicism's
Fort
very big in
Fort
this.
McHenry. Fort McHenry. I call it Fort Key because that's where the dude wrote the song, but it's Fort McHenry. But dude, dude. I mean, this is like what's up with these star forts, right?
yeah,
This is one of
right.
major events in America. This is where the Star Spangled Banner was written in a war that we lost, by the way.
Yeah, this is right here in downtown Baltimore. That's
Just
crazy.
right
I
there,
didn't even
dude.
know that.
It's right there, dude.
Let me share my screen.
Mm.
I went
Oh, you
there.
got it
I
pulled up.
spent
Okay.
last. I spent not last Memorial Day, 2 Memorial Days ago there. I like to. I mean, long before I discovered my heritage relative to Washington, I like to do a lot of very patriotic things on holidays. In fact, for 4 consecutive years, I spent Washington's birthday at Mount Vernon before I knew of such relations.
What was Francis Scott Key's son's name? Why is that familiar to me?
Phil,
No,
Okay, so
no, no, no,
And was it Lachlan Key?
no. John
No, that'd be
Ross.
funny if it was
Why
though.
do I keep thinking that he's um
so you have a
in
lot
akin to
of
the Harper's Ferry raid? Why does that keep coming to my brain?
so you have a lot of these star forts here before I forget. Like in this area, you got that Fort Ticonderoga right down here.
Yeah.
So clearly this is New York. This
You got
this
Fort LeBoeuf just downstream, sir.
Yep. So there's two right there. And this is the burnt over district, right? The parts in
Yeah.
red where the spiritualist movement emerges. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind because I'm going to show you another star fort. Just remember where that burnt district is.
So many mounds in that area too, by the way.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's where I'm going with
Not
this.
not just the Mormon Mecca of the Hill Cumorah that's located there, where they allegedly found the golden plates, but there's a
But
lot of mounds in that area.
also this Fort Ontario looks identical to that star fort Landon just had brought up actually.
You are correct, sir. You are
Um,
correct.
this is right in the heat of where that burnt over district popped off, where the spiritualist movement popped off. As you can see, it's at the confluence of the river and the lake. Perfect place for an ancient civilization, ancient fort. And also, this is where all through here on this part of the lake is where the burnt over district pops
Up
up.
in New York?
Yep, right on the shores here of Lake
That's
Ontario.
weird.
So you've
That's where
got
we get the Seventh Day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Campbellites. Basically, anything that has an ancient alien cargo cult or apocalyptic ending kind of mindset. It came from right there.
yes, yes. So you've got the burnt over district associated with star forts and mounds.
And aliens.
Yes, and I looked at because there were several of these spiritualist groups that popped up, and I looked at the towns. Um, what I wanted to see was there a connection between the spiritualist movement and the land itself being mystical, right?
Oh, for sure, dude.
Clearly there. So I looked at this. There's one of those spiritualist groups is called Universal Friends Group. They were there were two strange ancient remnants there, right? One's called the Bluff Point Stoneworks, right where this group started up their cult thing. This was a like an elaborate grid of stone that was described as being like a Celtic village, but it was documented in 1880 in a geological survey, but it was destroyed in 1980 or completely destroyed in 1980. I think maybe it was being destroyed over time,
Right, some
but
remnants of it.
they said it was obliterated by agricultural development. But you also had in that same area, you also had the Indian pine mounds, which local folklore uh, included treasure being there and a lot of paranormal sightings. And
Wow.
in the 1880s, many of those mounds were destroyed by people who were looking for that treasure. So this is
Well, if
all,
I may, looking on
yeah.
that, some of what you're saying about the mystical nature, sir, are you familiar with the Herkimer Diamond?
So I'm gonna finish my thought real quick. That was just for people listening. That was at Penn Yan. That's the name of the place in New York where the Universal Friends Group came out of. So my what I'm going to try to do is I want to go through and I want to find more sites like this associated with the spiritualist movement because I think there's something here. And of course, the Onondaga tribe is right down there near Syracuse, and you've got this Oswego River where this star fort is. So just to finish that thought, the spiritualist movement was definitely founded on a mound site, and who knows what else. But yeah, what you
Wow.
got,
Yes, sir.
JJ? What you
Yes,
got?
sir. And
I
I
got to
think,
roll, boys.
All right,
oh,
man.
yes, sir.
Yes, thanks for a good show, man. Tim,
Thank you.
JJ, always a good time. We'll have to reconvene and run this
Anytime,
again for a
gents.
second episode.
Anytime,
Yeah.
gents. This is a great conversation. I appreciate both y'all's time.
Yeah,
All
Landon,
right,
I think
boys.
there's a lot more that I could go into
Oh yeah.
with this. So yeah, let's
I
maybe
want to
do
do
it as
this.
a
We
part
should
two.
we should do like a star fort. Like that'd be fun, and
Okay.
just get into some woo and
Con-
that. Yeah.
Consider why not just the mounds while they're building these star forts in this area and the spiritualist movement of the Burnover district.
I
Geomancy wise, this is a very specific quartz it's exclusive to that area. It's
yeah,
not a diamond. It's a quartz.
I'm
Look,
very intrigued by this
quartz
burned over
transmits.
district.
We know it transmits radio signals, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just
Right.
saying.
So
Yeah.
Landon, thanks, man. It's the Daily Dissonant.
Yeah, just the Daily Dissonant wherever you get podcasts. I should pop up. So yeah.
All right,
JJ,
buddy.
Tim, been a good show. I appreciate you
Yes,
having me,
sir.
Tim.
Yeah,
We'll have to
of
do it
course.
again, boys.
We'll do it again, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Peace. Enjoy your guys' time.
You too, sir.
Later.
So, what? Tell me what what was that diamond again? It was
It's
they were
the
using it for
it's the
star forts.
Herkimer diamond. So if you want to talk geomancy, we're not just talking mounds now. We're talking about the other stuff that's underneath the mounds.
Mm.
So this is a very
Mm.
exclusive quartz rock that's only exclusive to that Burnover district area.
Really?
Yeah. And I have to salute Shelley over there, Eyes and Ears. I did a podcast over there with a local from the area, Shelley, who brought this to my attention.
Yeah, that Mohawk River Valley, man, that's where that Onondaga tribe was, who, by the way, they were building walled cities, Old Testament style.
Well, this isn't far from that mountain you brought to my attention during our last conversations, and I salute you for doing that as well. I respect your brain hole for having all these new concepts that you're bringing to my attention. And
Are you
when we're talking about that whole area,
the goddess temple, the Templar goddess temple?
yeah, dude, it's not. I mean, if we're starting looking at alignments, dude, we're looking at that kind of across the northern area of New York. There, we're going to see from that mountain through this Burnover district onto these star forts. Now, this is the southwestern corner of what you were just showing. The star forts in the Ontario Lake area. This is Erie, Pennsylvania, essentially, right?
Mm.
This was Fort LeBoeuf. This plays a major factor in American history. This is where George Washington colluded with the future members of the French chapter of the Society of Cincinnati to murk his boss, General Braddock.
Mm. Here at this fort.
Yeah, so he allegedly on paper went up there to talk to the French about a truce between this is the French Indian War versus the British. Turns out when they go up there to later, with General Braddock comes into town,
Mhm.
General Braddock and all of his men die, and George and all of his men live. So I would argue that since these are the predecessors to the LaBeouf, as in Shia LaBeouf's family, same family. If you know a French family or any, a lot of things, again, as I said at the beginning of this program, you know the name. It's probably because it's Society of Cincinnati related. And so the Colonel LaBeouf in charge of this fort, Colonel Washington met with him, and then they would appear. Again, I don't care what people say. I am often concerned about the result. And the result is, again, after that meeting, General Braddock goes up there, gets murked. All of his men get murked, and George and all of his men walk away. George would take General Braddock's sash, his red sash, and famously wear it the rest of his life. And to say that we don't understand American history, George was most certainly brought up on treason. And I can use this one example, not to go in a long tail because I know we're bringing this in for a close, but George was running around Alexandria, Virginia in 1771 wearing that military colonel's uniform and that red sash. The same red sash folks can see at Mount Vernon today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But these star forts, man, this is a major point in American history, and
for sure.
it's
Can
another
I share
star
a
fort.
screen? Yeah,
Yes,
for
sir.
sure, man. I was just gonna. You can keep going. I was just gonna.
No, that was it, sir. I was just saying, when we're talking star forts, there's a lot of American history. Star Spangled Banner, Fort McHenry, Fort LeBoeuf, which was a major turning point in a lot of things in American history that we don't recognize. That a lot more to these tales.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna pull up here that that same area that we're in here. And I'm just gonna continue with your what you're saying here about the star forts. Uh, Now I gotta warn you, my computer is weird with maps. It's like, let's see if I can get this thing to work. Anyway, here's the St. Lawrence River,
Yeah,
and we know that it comes down and it splits off and it goes down and through New York.
yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the name of that one river. It's called
The one that connects Champlain to the
yes,
St.
this
Lawrence.
the Red Lachou. Is that what it's called?
It's something French.
Yeah. Anyway, it's right here, and then you've got Fort Ticonderoga right down here, another star fort. But
Dude,
they were coming down.
if you want to talk about mystical locations, sir, well, I assure you, Lake Champlain is very mystical.
Oh, that's a whole nother trail to this thing because they've got the lake monster there, right? And this gets back into these cults who were working doing magic on lakes and literally trying to summon up the lake monsters. There's this really
And you
wild
may not
thread.
and you may not think of Vermont being a mound location or full of some Cherokee tribes, but I assure you, it's both.
Yeah. So this area, I think, is where the Templars were coming. They were sailing down through here, and they may have been building the star forts as well, but they were certainly storing up like treasure and stuff like that, and scrolls and ancient records and stuff
I
like that.
I think you're spot on, sir. And if I may add some closing statements here on what we're all
Yes.
describing right here.
You ready to close it
And
down?
yeah, I gotta go take my dogs out for a walk for my show at
Cool.
9:30 here. But when we're talking about matters of time and we don't understand the nature of it, and it's one of my that's probably my most fast. This is a subject that's most fascinated me the most. The nature of time, how we understand things. I have numerous examples of information that's in my brain hole that I shouldn't know because it's in a premonition style fashion. Nonetheless, my point in that is one incident I had long before I found out I was of some far deeper Cherokee heritage than anyone inferred to me as a child. When I did some DNA tests and whatnot, and I knew I had Cherokee heritage, but I'm just saying there's a lot more. There's a lot more to those tales, and again, the Scots Irish, coming together with those cultures, etc. But there's a lot of Cherokee folks fought in this fight for the establishment of this nation. Folks don't recognize. For example, one of my forefathers, Major George Lowry, he was a personal friend of George Washington's, and he fought for America. And again, a lot of times people think, there's false narratives spun around a lot of these things. But I was rehabbing an injury when I was on active duty a number of years ago, and it was in the reserves, but I was doing active time in the reserves. This is circa 2015. I was right before I started my PI agency, went full time kind of reserve status. But I'm rehabbing an injury, and so I was in the same spot every day at the same gym in the same sauna. So if you need to find me, you could. I had no idea. Again, I don't. It's speaking of synchronicities and time and understanding what the fuck goes on in this world. And this one dude comes in one day, and he's a retired Marine command sergeant major, and he acted like it. And when I say that, this is a chop and list the guy in the Marines, and he was, he had the fucking bulldog on his arm. He had some other Cherokee shit on this arm. He's starts off a conversation somewhat cordial. It gets a little bit less cordial, more stern. It seems like over the subsequent nature of the conversation. But he proceeds to tell me that he's a Cherokee fella from Vermont, and et cetera, giving me all this heritage and stuff like that, and it's retired command sergeant major or whatever from the Marines, and then starts to really start asking me about my life, and he starts probing questions where I didn't appreciate, and that conversation ended. But it was weird when I found out later my Cherokee heritage, all this Cherokee connection to Vermont, the Vermont being my bootleg home state there, and I spent a lot of time around Champlain there, where some of these tribes hail from, and a lot of weird shit in that area, man, for sure.
Yeah, man. I know. I that's the I'm trying to remember the name of it's called a Templar. It's an old Templar story. It's called The Year That We Remember, I think. And this is some stuff that Scott Walters brought in the light, some of his research, and I looked into it and it checks out. So it's not just Dan Brown stuff. Like, this actually checks out. Who, by the way, Dan Brown, we can talk about him another time, but he was sent in by the CIA to look into some ancient sites out in France that I know about. But
I'd love to hear that tale, sir. I'd love to hear that tale, but I do have to punch. Yeah. I appreciate your time, Tim, and conversations.
I know we'll wrap it up, man. We'll just do a part 2, man. We got more stuff.
Oh, for sure, dude. So. Anytime, man. I love the conversation. Again, I have like 8 new tabs today. I always enjoy these conversations and learn new things for sure.
Thanks, JJ. Tell everyone where they can find you.
JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD, not the vice president. Don't vote for me in 2028. No bombs here.
Cool. As always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, well, check your 6. Look in that garbage can, 'cause you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.